and I
Thank you. I'm calling the meeting to order here at 5:30.
to the people. I mean, not to me personally, but to sell it to
Thank you.
community members. 'Cause
Welcome to the, good evening, and welcome to the August 12th, 2026 joint meeting with the City Council, to be followed by a Parks Commission regular business meeting. We'll start, of course, with the joint meeting, and the first order of business is a land acknowledgement, and Commissioner Bloom, would you please do that for us?
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Councilor Bloom.
That's okay. We acknowledge and honor the Aboriginal people on whose ancestral homelands we work, the Kirikutsum Band of the Shasta Nation, as well as the diverse and vibrant Native communities who make their home here today. We honor the first stewards in the Rogue Valley and the lands we love and depend on. Tribes with ancestral lands in and surrounding the geography of the Ashland watershed include the original past, present, and future Indigenous inhabitants of the Shasta, Tacoma, and Athabascan people. We also recognize and acknowledge the Shasta village of Quakaka, where the crow lights, that is now the Ashland City Plaza.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilor Bloom,
Here?
Councilor Hanson,
Here.
Commissioner Weiner,
Here.
Commissioner Lant,
Here.
Mayor Graham. Here. Commissioner Bachman,
Here.
Councilor Dale,
Here.
Commissioner Gardner,
Here.
Councilor Kaplan,
Here.
and Councilor Duquesne. Here. Thank you.
Thank you. Third order of business is the quarterly financial update, which Deputy Director, Finance Director Bryn Morrison is going to give us. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. One moment. Thank you. So tonight, I'm going to present the preliminary June 30th, 2026 financial report. It is preliminary because we are right now currently in our audit process, closing the fiscal year. So these are preliminary numbers, but I do want to present it to you, and then the final numbers will come when the audit is complete. Within the information you received in the packet is a summary of the fund balances, a summary of revenues and expenditures citywide, statements of resources, requirements, and changes in fund balance by fund, and summary of cash and investments. So one thing I wanted to point out is I apologize, there was an error in the staff report regarding the total revenue. Total revenue was 104 million, so I wanted to make that correction. So this is a chart of the year over year for the fourth quarter, which would truly be the full year of revenue for the different types of charges for services, taxes, debt revenue, interest and pooled investments, intergovernmental revenue, franchise fees, licenses and permits, fines and forfeitures, and miscellaneous type revenue. Overall increase from the prior year was 9.8 million. Citywide, it was 10% increase from the prior year. And we'll go category by category. Taxes, this increase was due to the public safety fee, the wildfire reduction fee, and the creation of the park fee as compared to last year. The food and beverage tax, the final quarter has been delayed as far as the receipt of the payment because we brought back in-house the collection and management of the food and beverage tax and business license payments. And we are working with our providers right now, extending those deadlines until September because we are bringing that back in-house. So I'll have those final numbers at a later date as well. The transient lodging tax is fully in, and we see a 5.8% increase from the prior year in that. Licenses and permits year over year, 3.1% higher than the previous year. Intergovernmental revenue, we've brought this to you before. The Public Works tap system upgrades, the reimbursement for our fire department, helping other agencies, and then the state revenue sharing increased slightly, but those are the changes from year over year. Charges for services is 8.5% higher than the previous year for the sales section of the charges for services. So that is for our utilities. So electric, water, sewer, telecommunications is included in that as well, stormwater. The interest on investments decreased from last year, which was expected. However, we are coming in at 96.4% of what we had budgeted. The miscellaneous revenue is our largest increase, and that is due to the Asante payment of $4 million. So 3.2 of that is in the reserve fund in the unappropriated end fund balance, and 800,000 of it is in the capital improvement fund in the unappropriated ending fund balance. Neither one of those funds that the money can be spent out of without council resolution. We also had sale of clean fuel credits and higher decommissioned assets in the equipment fund when we sell our equipment that is decommissioned. As far as expenditures year over year, in total for operating, we were 1% less than the previous year. We're within our budgeted expectations. Personal services is at 94.5% of budget. Materials and services is at 91.1% of budget. Debt service and capital outlay are both trending as expected. Debt service is based on schedules for debt payments, and capital outlay is based on the timing of the projects. The city's net position, citywide, not very much of a change, 84.3 million versus 85.1. The general fund dropped down to 13.5 million from 15.3. Reserve, you'll see that increase due to the Asante payment, 5.2 compared to 2. The street fund, 1.5 compared to 4.1, again for the capital projects that are underway. Water fund is the same because of the capital project, 16.4 versus 18.8. Telecommunications, slight change, 2.6 compared to 2.8. And then the equipment fund, that rose from 7.6 to 9.4. And along with the decommissioned assets, the timing of purchasing equipment also contributes to that higher ending fund balance right now. Citywide cash and investments is very close to last year at the same time, 79.4 versus 79.2. For Ashland Parks and Recreation, the general fund projected revenue was almost $912,000, of which we've received $856,000, about 94% of what we had projected. Expenditures, general fund, personnel services is at 89.7% with some positions left vacant. General fund materials and services is at 92.5. The Parks Capital Improvement Fund balance is 3.6 million. And park system development charges are $540,000. An update, on our low-income assistance program. So the low-income assistance program is based on each fiscal year. So this will be the end of the first year of the program. We had 495 qualified customers. 68 of those customers reached that $400 threshold. We are working with our conservation divisions on those that had high usage during the year to help them reach out to the conservation division to ask for energy and water audits. At this point, we've only had 6 accounts request those audits that are on the low income discount. You can see the graph there for the amounts per fund.
Councilor Bloom.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question. I'm guessing, but correct me if I'm wrong, is that the budget is much higher than actual on electric because we usually see higher usage winter, or higher need in winter, I should say?
Well, we expected higher participation, but this is a full fiscal year, so we would have already recouped,
Oh, right.
we would have already had that
Yeah.
winter time period. We did have a milder winter, though,
Yeah.
than we expected. So it's the total, actual is much lower than what we had anticipated.
Okay, great, thank you.
Councilor Kaplan.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Bryn. So I remember we put in the $400 threshold. It's actually a cap, the $400 cap, no more discount than $400, which is 30% of the total spend. We put that on there because council was concerned that we might bust the budget.
Right.
We established a budget of $282,600 and some, and we came in with less than half that. So what would be the process for considering a revision to that cap, so we could maybe raise the cap and get a recommendation from staff on what that cap might be? 68 households have raised it, and not sure why we would want to cap them at that point if we have the resources.
Right, that's a valid point, and that was what, our primary concern was, like you mentioned, going into it. So I think we have every right to look into raising that cap. We should definitely. Sorry. Sorry. But by all means, I think we do need to look into it, because going into this process, we didn't know how many people we would have qualify. So I think it's definitely something that we should look into, and we could even, with council's direction, and I think we've got enough head nods that we could look at because it's really just procedural. It was not set in a resolution to do the $400 cap.
So I'm hoping that you said that you got enough head nods that you would do that. I have another question, which is about the 6 accounts completed audits. What is that? That's 1.5% of all of the audits that need to be done, and that's been over a year, and they have another year to do it. And I'm wondering what the staff's capacity it is and plan. What's staff's plan to actually get these audits done? It's a much higher rate of audit per day, per week, than I think we've ever had among our staff. So I'm wondering what staff's plan is to make sure that we get those audits so that we're not cutting people off because we have lack of capacity.
Right. So we will be working with conservation. We are going to be notifying all 495 qualified customers that they are required to have this audit done. Recent statistics that we have from just our energy audits is roughly 350 a year. That's a heavy load, and then when we add this on top of it, we do need to get out ahead of it. So the utility billing staff is working with the conservation staff, because it is both energy and water, to fulfill these requirements.
Yeah, can I follow on? So I'm just wanting to make sure that I appreciate the staff's working to get ahead of it. I don't want to be at the next quarter and find out that we've not made much progress. So I'd really like to see. Frankly, with the staffing that we've got, it's just impossible. So I'd like to understand what staff's plan is to actually get it done, since this was direction from council to get this done. Obviously, we can't force a household to get it done if they don't want it. But I've expressed concerns for the last several quarters that we're not getting ahead of it. We're not really pushing it. We're not really trying to pace the work out over 2 years. Mm-hmm. Now the crunch is coming. So I'd really like to see a plan in place, hopefully before the next quarter.
Jim.
Mayor Graham.
Thank you. Since we are providing guidance to staff, I want to make sure that we do this and have a structured way. So for counselors, we have 2 items that Councilor Kaplan has put forward. Make sure that I have these correctly. One is that we would revisit the $400 threshold, and that we would receive another report within a quarter to show us where the progress in terms of the audits that need to be done by the program, what's been put in place, what staff has done to move that requirement forward. Do I have that correct?
Well, I think for the second one, a quarter is too long to wait for that plan. I would like to see that a lot earlier so that we can actually see progress before the end of the quarter, because otherwise we wait for a quarter just to get the plan. Then we've only got 3 quarters left.
So when do you want it?
I'd like to hear from staff what's feasible.
So they are actually working on it right now with the Conservation Division. So yeah, they are sending out letters to the customers to let them know that it is a requirement. And it's kind of twofold. We also are going to be reaching out to the community, letting them know those have to reapply because we don't see as many. We're about 150 short of those that applied last year that have not applied this year. So it's just that education to the community as well, that they are required to reach out for the audit and required to reapply each year. Those that are on the senior discount are grandfathered in and they are not required to reapply each year. And there's about 330 of those.
Okay. So it sounds like there's already a plan that's in motion.
Right.
So coming back to the council with details about the plan seems like that's not too difficult. Could we see that potentially by the middle of September when we come back from our break?
Sure. Well, what I can kind of share with you is that our utility billing staff has a schedule of those with the highest usage and is communicating that to the electric and water conservation staff. So that is the plan right now, is going to those as the top priority first, and then, but for sure, it's a mass letter mail merge. So it's happening right now. They are generating it. They are getting it out there as part of just the end of the year process and going forward.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the alerting people and everything that utility billing is doing to let people know. My concern is much more on the capacity to actually then do
Right.
the audits, because I know that staff have not ever done 400 and, would you say, 480, 89, thank you, 489 audits in a single year. So I'd like to, and they've got to do it both electricity and conservation. So I just don't see how that's going to be possible. What I'm interested in is a plan of how the conservation staff are going to handle the workload.
Sure. And we can take that back to the conservation staff and ask them just that, how they plan on that workload. I don't know, other than the two individuals that I'm aware of that do the audits for each, but maybe they have more capacity with other individuals. I'm not aware. So we can sure ask.
So we would be looking then to have that plan, the full plan of what are we doing to notify people, and then also what is the capacity plan for conservation. Is it a reasonable ask to have that in mid-September?
I would think so.
Okay, okay, so that's the question in front of the council. You want me to, Councilor Bloom?
Thank you. Yeah, and I would just like to kind of throw it out to my colleagues here too, of that, there's a plan to notify people. I don't see why we can't also maybe potentially come back with a marketing plan. I mean, how do we go out and really make sure that we're reaching these people? I can't imagine that out of these numbers that most people are just, I don't need that. I don't need help. I think that some people just don't realize the program's here, or we're not doing enough to market it. So it's one thing to kind of send a letter or put it in their bill to say, hey, you qualify. But I think that there's another element of making an intentional effort to really go out and make sure people are aware of this program. And so I'd throw it out to my colleagues I'd also like to see a marketing plan come back of how we're going to do that outreach.
So I think all three of those align pretty nicely with what we were intending as a council when we put this in place. So those would be the three items then. We revisit the threshold. We discuss how are we making sure our residents know that this program is available to them, and then what is the plan for in getting those audits started, but also completing them with the conservation staff. So if that sounds right to councilors, please give me a head nod, and we'll make that formal direction to staff. Okay. Do you have any questions, Sabrina, about that?
No.
Okay, thanks. Great. Thank you, Bryn.
Great. Any other questions on this slide before I move on? Okay. You're welcome.
So, yeah, any more questions on that item? No? Okay, thank you.
The next part is an update on the utility receivable that I bring quarterly. Right now, 2.8 of the 5.2 million is past due. 1.3 of that is on payment plans, and 1.5 is not subject to subject to delinquent processing. As I mentioned in a previous meeting, we've had some turnover in utility billing, so getting new staff trained and back up to speed on the delinquent processing. We will be moving forward with resuming that more frequently very soon. This is the total aging by fund. So this is where you can see the fund totals, the current amounts, which are the current bills. Bills are not due until 3 weeks after they are generated. That, you know, we appreciate payment upon receipt. However, they do have that full month before the next bill is generated, and then it would become past due. So 2.4 is the current. So we are still reaching out and working with the larger amount of the 2 million that's over the 120 days past due.
Councilor Kaplan?
Thanks, Bryn. Just to make sure that I'm understanding how to interpret this table, what I'm understanding from you is that $1.2 million is $1.5 million is not on a payment plan. So now go to the aging table. Some of those over 120 are on payment plans. Some of them are not. There's also maybe some of them of the 90 to 120 days that are not on a payment plan. There may even be some of the 31 to 60 and 61 that are not on a payment plan. At what point do you decide that they're uncollectible?
We actually, as part of the audit process each year, will determine an uncollectible amount. And so if they're active, these are all active accounts. So we do not determine they're uncollectible until we've actually turned them payment and they do not pay their bills. Then we determine that allowance for uncollectible as part of our audit process.
Okay, thanks. So there are some number of accounts over 120 days past due, not paying. They're not on a payment plan. There's $500,000 of that's past due. Why? I don't understand then why.
Because of the staff turnover, we have not been able to do the delinquent processing in a few months. So now that we have staff again, they will start that process again, reaching out to customers that may be included in that over 120, most likely, and letting them know you need to get on a payment plan or you're subject to disconnect. And then they would go through that delinquent processing schedule.
So, can I just follow up?
Yeah.
A follow-up on it. Okay, and my recollection is that we gave you the flexibility to extend the period of the payment plan, because as the number gets large, I'm not interested in cutting people off. I'd much rather extend the period of the payment plan for several years if necessary in order to help them to get a reasonable payment plan.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
So you're going to be working with them, and as the amount past due is suitably large, they'll have a longer period of time to pay it back.
Correct. And every account is eligible for 2 payment plans, because we recognize some, life happens and they may miss a payment and want to rectify it. So they are allowed 2 payment plans and longer time periods to pay those off than we have ever previously done.
Councilor Dale?
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Bryn. So kind of to follow up on the follow-up from Councilor Kaplan. So I understand staff turnover, that happens too. Looks like we're on training, but given the fact that staff seems like it's coming up to speed now, is there a timeline? Is there do we need to monitor this monthly or something now that we've got a full staff to find out when are we going to be back on track relative to what Councilor Kaplan was asking about relative to reaching out to folks now that we have staff? Just because I know it's kind of a continuing to monitor, but we have to start putting benchmarks on that of what the progress is on that.
Right. We do monitor it monthly. We absolutely do. And what we will do is we will start with the highest amounts that are by account. And we are fully staffed. That does not mean we have the capacity, because they are new staff. So we have to manage that with all of the other items that we have to do. So we are watching it absolutely monthly, we will get back on track with the notification systems, but we have to balance all of that with the customer service to provide good customer service to those folks that need to get on those payment plans.
Of course, and if I may, thanks. So would you need help with contractors or something temporarily to be able to do this, just so that, you said the staff is there, but the capacity is not. So is it something that we need to provide some sort of resource so that we can move it along, or it's just going to happen when it happens?
I appreciate the thought, but it is an intensive training process for
All right.
utility billing. I really do appreciate the thought.
Sure.
But, you know, we want customers to be helped correctly. So we want to be accurate. So we do want those trained staff members to perform this duty.
Sure.
Yeah,
I appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Yeah, we just don't want that to keep growing past
Right.
almost 3 million here.
Right,
So, yeah.
right.
Mayor Graham?
Thank
Yeah.
you, Chair. So, Bryn, I don't know if this is possible, but one of the things when I see this spreadsheet is not knowing how much of these are on payment plans, I think it gets in the way of me understanding the situation that we're actually looking at, right? So if they're over 120, if most of those are on payment plans, then I don't worry about that so much. If they're not, or if 50% of them are not, then I start to have questions about, well, what's happening with the delinquent processing? Because we don't want to get back, of course, and we all share the goal of not getting back to where we ended up during the pandemic. But is there a way, without adding a significant amount of work, to adjust this so that we could essentially pull out all of the accounts that are on a payment plan?
It is a significant amount of work. And
Okay.
when we discussed this before, I think I shared with you all, we are moving to a new utility billing software.
Yes.
And we have selected the vendor. We are in the protest period where the other proposers can review. So we are close to moving to a software that will have these sorts of capabilities. But
Great.
unfortunately, right now, we don't have that ability with our current software. But, you know, we are striving to really get this process started quickly and really, you know, reach out to customers and get them going on these plans prior to the new software being implemented, because the implementation process will be a year, roughly, so.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. And I thought that might be the answer, was that with our current system, we don't have an easy way to do that. But I'm glad to hear that that's coming.
It's exciting.
Councilor Bloom?
Yeah, thank you. Councilor Dale was kind of getting at it. What I was going to talk about was, potentially contracting out. And I understand, we want to deliver good customer service, but, I worry about the capacity issue because it seems to be kind of an ebb and flow and for a variety of reasons and no fault on anybody. That's just the way that things go in any kind of industry or business. But I'm curious if you could maybe get together and brainstorm what can we provide you to get caught up on this, because I don't want staff to get overworked and stressed. It's hard dealing with this when somebody's delinquent and having to kind of go through that process. But we also have a lot of customers within Ashland that aren't delinquent and also need help and also have issues with billing where a meter was read wrong and they need something taken care of. And so to prevent people from wanting to turn over because it's too much work, what can we building capacity or finding some way that we could get caught up on these delinquent accounts as soon as possible, because that's a significant amount of money.
I appreciate that thought, and I think I'm going to approach it as the overall new utility billing software really will help with all aspects of utility billing. To limit, for example, our web portal is not as user-friendly as it should be. So that causes a lot of customer service calls and emails. So that then takes away the staff's time. The billing process is too laborious. It should not take as long as it does for our staff to bill. The payment process, it's okay, but it will improve greatly with the web portal improving. We have folks that don't want to use the web portal at all because it's cumbersome. It's not user-friendly, so they are still handwriting checks and putting it in the mail to us. So that takes staff time. So I really think holistically with the new software, it is our solution for much of this. You know, as far as what else you can do, just, you know, be supportive as you are, you know, and ask those questions on what, and understanding that, you know, we're really trying, doing our best, and we will get back to this, you know, picking up the speed a little bit more just within these next 3 months. I would see a complete uptick in this for the next quarterly report.
Thank you, Brandon. I have confidence that you'll do great.
Thank you.
Counselor Dale?
Thank you. And yeah, same as Councilor Bloom had said, but I think just to put a period on it, and again, understand we're all doing the best we can, but I guess what I think I would like to know relative to this is if we're going to be in the business of operating utilities, we have to be in the business of operating utilities. And that means having those resources and those capabilities. So the community is speaking, this council is speaking about this. So the question I would ask is, well, one quick question, just a clarification. Are we past the vendor selection, or do we have a vendor selected?
We do.
Okay.
And Oregon law, we are required to allow a protest period, and we're in that protest period right now.
And when does that end?
It ended today.
It ended today. Okay, so can we put a date on when this will be up and running? Training notwithstanding.
So we have to bring it to council with contract approval and then start the process. So I would say up and running within 16 months.
16 months.
Because it's a 12 to 16 month implementation. So that, you know, it takes a long time. You know, when we're talking about a $42 million receivable, we have to ensure that it's correct.
Okay, appreciate it. Thanks, Fran.
Sorry about that, but
Nope.
that's the truth.
We'll have that discussion at council. All right, thank you.
Okay, anybody else on this topic? Okay, let's move on.
Okay, within the packet, again, is a forecasting update, just a refresher on how we process the forecast, how we create it. We gather and analyze historical averages. We develop sets of assumptions. It's important that we continue to evaluate the revenue and expenditure streams as those change, and it's very important that we update it periodically. So the last meeting in June, the figures have been updated to include more current year-end estimates for fiscal year 26. We had to increase our health insurance. Originally, the forecast was built at 8%. We're hearing that the forecast for health insurance is closer to 11 now. And also, this uses a 92% vacancy rate on the personnel side. Some impacts that are within the forecast that you'll see is the uncertainty of the parks fee and the possibility of it sunsetting, and also the uncertainty of fee revenue that may be received in the future. So that has implications on the forecast as well. So I've provided two different scenarios. We're no longer doing a best and worst case scenario. This truly is where we think we are. One includes the park fee and one does not include the park fee. So you have these two scenarios in front of you. You can see in the red at the bottom, that is our where we are not meeting policy. I want to be clear that that's policy and not the ending fund balance. There might have been some confusion before on that. So that is where, with the way the current policies are set, that is the timeline of when we would not meet policy for the park fee. So you can see that that is in fiscal year 30. Does anyone have any questions on this slide before I move on to the next?
Commissioner Gardner.
I was just looking, I printed out what was in the packet, and this is a little bit different. Has it been updated from, I thought what was in?
It should be the same.
Okay.
Yeah, was there a piece of it that you had a question on?
It's just the red lines at the bottom. The one that I printed out showed a negative in the second box from the right at the end of the first column, but that's not a problem.
Okay.
If that's the accurate information right there, that's fine.
You're welcome. Happy to answer any questions offline too, if you'd like. The second slide here is without the
Excuse me,
parks.
we got one more question.
Oh, sorry.
Commissioner Dale? Councilor Dale.
Thank you. Thanks, Bren. Yeah, I was looking at both of these. So with or without the parks fee, it's not a matter of if, it's when.
Correct.
Okay. So I know that there were several motions of staff direction that was made about a month ago to be able to forecast and look into that. And I know we're in this period of staff figuring out what those reports, those more comprehensive reports and action plans are going to be. However, and I understand you've got a policy of, sorry, that don't have the right set of
16.67.
glasses on, but yeah, well, the 16.67 would be the 8.3, and we'd be short 5.7, so we'd have basically an ending fund balance of three and change, something like that, right? So again, this is not an if, this is a when. So we've got the more comprehensive discussions coming within the next probably 2 months here based on the motions from last month. But just as it stands now, again, irrespective of the parks fee, this is, we either have an issue or we're doing this intentionally. And that's fine. If we're drawing down an ending fund balance because we're doing the things, then we're drawing the ending fund balance because we're doing the things. But obviously we can't continue to do the things when that number goes below policy. So can someone speak to the state of the city as it stands now relative to this, or is this just a down and to the right line and we're going to go, okay, we'll deal with it later?
I can start and city manager can add, but this forecasting is definitely part of what's coming up when we talk about preparing the budget. This is the introduction of, this is where we forecast we are going to be, what we see here, what are we going to do about it, let's talk about our priorities, let's talk about our services. So this is that starting point. Mm-hmm.
So all cities down and to the right look like we do. So as we go through the budget process, that's where policy decisions about, what programs we're going to maintain and at what level come into play. So no budget is going to be passed that has a violation of policy like this, because just like last budget cycle, we removed programs and people to meet the threshold that we needed to for the budget. So this is not an inevitable downward slide, but what it does demonstrate is our level of revenue does not keep pace with the level of services we provide, and there are decisions that council is going to need to make.
Right. Yeah. So to read that back to you, and I hear you on that, Sabrina, and I would agree with everything you said there. It's just we can't go into the red by law and policy basically with that. So the fact of the matter is do we deal with it gradually, the proverbial soft landing, or however that works relative to all the ideas that the 12 of us will figure out, or it's a pretty hard landing where stuff gets broken, depending on when you start making those decisions, correct?
I guess you'd need to define what broken means.
Red.
Again, we're not going to get to red, so decisions need to be made.
Zero.
Councilor Bloom?
Yeah, thank you. Brim, looking at this, when we're kind of the projections, beginning fund balance, ending fund balance, I'm guessing, it seems to me that this is basing off of an assumption that council would approve drawing down the ending fund balance to use for ongoing operational expenses. Is that correct? Correct. So, which we would have to make a decision on going forward. I know in the past it just kind of happened and we never really weighed in on that, but we would, in the future, if that policy were to maintain, we would have to make a decision whether to either violate said financial policy or change said financial policy.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Councilor Duquesne?
My question was partly asked and answered. I'll wait for a little later to come back. Thank you, Councilor Bloom, for that.
Councilor Kaplan?
Yeah, I just want to comment a little bit on the tenor of the comments or questions that I heard from a couple of my council colleagues, that this is almost as if there is an assumption that council will continue at this rate. And actually, the way I read this is it's not at all. It's not an assumption that there'll be a continuance of anything. This is an alert of what would happen if nothing happens. But we heard from the city manager that in the next budget period, there will be a proposal, so we will not get into a violation of our financial policy in that respect, and the fund balance policy. It's not against the law, by the way. It's simply it's our policies that we have the ability to change, and I'm not advocating that we change them, but it's not a violation of law. The city is in reasonably sound financial position. Absolutely needs to take some action in the next fall, leading into the next budget period, so that we put ourselves in a better position of revenues and expenditures in better balance. But this is not a prediction. This is just setting the stage for those kinds of decisions that must be taken and will be taken.
Councilor Dale.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. And I think I would respectfully push back on that a little bit insofar as that resolutions are not a guideline and a good idea. They are legislation that this body decides on, and they are to be followed. If we violate them intentionally, that is not good. Now, I understand that sometimes you can trip over something, and we don't mean to, we correct, we find out, staff has done an excellent job of when we've found where we have erred, we have made a correction, we've made it public, we have done our best to course correct. But if the policies are such that they don't make sense or that they need to be updated, then you update the policy. But we can debate the word law, but ordinances and resolutions are just like Oregon revised statutes and Oregon administrative rule, like you follow them. So I just want to make clear that we're not intentionally violating anything because they don't work for us. We go and we change the resolution and we repeal it.
Councilor Bloom.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, we could debate this ad nauseum, but this is a joint meeting with Parks, and this is really something that we as a council need to be discussing. I would just add that to suggest that our financial position is good with consideration that regardless of any forecasting, we're going to be having a conversation about making cuts to our budget and services that we offer our community. That's not a good financial position.
Thank you. Please continue.
That's the end of my presentation, unless anyone has any more questions.
Okay, so one last chance. Anybody have questions for staff?
Thank you.
Councilor.
Sorry, we just, I'm sorry.
That's
Chair,
okay.
Was that okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, didn't mean to jump on you. So Brent, if you could go back a few slides to F&B, just had a quick question for you here on this. So my understanding is that we brought that in-house because there were problems or there was something. So I think my question is twofold here is great to see the revenue up, because that's what I'm looking at. It's up, well, whatever it is, I think if I heard you say it correctly, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, it's trending better as far as collections or however that's work. I mean, let me just put that on the table. Yes, or don't know yet.
We were speaking about the transient lodging tax being up, the 5.8%. Food and beverage is not yet, because we don't have the full quarter in to be able to determine. And also, it is up from the previous year. However, bringing it back in-house, I have full confidence that we will actually be able to manage it better than that third party did and collect better on that.
Correct. So, okay, I think I heard you correctly, which is generally speaking, we had a third party contractor that was tasked with collecting things like business license fees, F&B, et cetera.
Correct.
And they did not do a good job.
Correct.
Okay. So the two questions that I would have is what I think this council would and commission would be interested, because F&B specifically involves both of these bodies, is I'd like to see the net earnings, I guess, revenue minus expenses, right? I mean, it's nice that revenue's up, but if we're using additional, I mean, what did we gain? And that just part of just so we can have the full picture, as opposed to just seeing the revenue but not seeing the expense line, right? So we have to break out, like, what's the cost of collection? What are the cost of doing business relative to those revenues? That's number one, and the difference between that. And number two, is there any recourse for a company that we hired for multiple years to collect things that are not, did they just say, I don't want to do it? And I understand that staff, we hired their services. We thought they were doing that. We audited it. We looked at it. Do we have any recourse to be able to go to this contractor and say, and I don't want to go down any kind of legal road, but like breach of, I mean, did they fail on certain stipulations of their contract that we had with them? Or is it like they go, my bad, and we move on?
Well, we ended the contract with them also, but yes, we worked with legal, and we do not have recourse other than we ended our contract early, and we feel confident we have been able to hire an accounting specialist to bring into the city to strictly do the food and beverage and business license management. And we have estimated that, the fee that we paid this organization was low. And the staff person's wages will be more than made up for with our collection efforts, being able to raise that revenue. The general fund receives approximately $65,000 of food and beverage revenue. So it's not as much as the other fund. But we'd have every confidence that we're going to actually go back to 2021 and pursue and rectify those accounts. It's just going to take a little bit of time.
Sure. Well, I'm glad to hear you're doing that because, yeah, every dollar counts.
Right.
Councilor Bloom?
Thank you. Just curious question, something I always wanted to ask and always seem to forget, is the 2% that is collected, that is allocated for administrative out of the food and beverage allocation, is that sufficient to cover that staff position, or was it sufficient to cover the contract, or are we kind of, it's something, but we're having to add some extra?
It was sufficient to cover the contract.
Okay.
It's not sufficient to cover the staff member. However, with the total collection of the food and beverage, I think we're fine with the staff member will provide, once we get more of a handle on this, we'll be able to provide other accounting type functions for us that we desperately need in our accounting division.
Okay, thanks. And then quick follow-up, I imagine some of the increase in expense related there is roll-ups, right? I mean, insurance, benefits, all that. Okay, got it.
Right, the full cost of the
Totally,
employee.
thank you.
Councilor Duquesne?
Yes, so Bryn, I was looking at this across the board, looking at the two different scenarios. Can you remind me again why grants are incorporated in the revenue?
Grants are what we receive, why it's incorporated in the revenue? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
As I look at 2027, 2028, 2029, 2030, can you remind me again?
So grants, they are something that we do receive each year, so those are our estimates for receiving them.
But it's not confirmed because we don't know that we're going to get these grants.
Right.
Okay.
So we're just holding that pretty much flat, not showing increases, but holding it flat. So you're absolutely right. If we did not receive certain grants, then the expenditure would not happen as well.
Okay, and something, if I may, really quick, I look at this, and looking at the grants are estimated, it's not money in hand. I see that we have more expenditures than we have money coming in, and my colleagues were talking about services and cuts in services, and the biggest expense is personnel services. So when we look at policy and we look at this next biennium, I believe that's what we should be looking at.
Any other questions? Thank you very much for
Thank
your
you, everyone.
presentation. And we're going to move on to agenda item number 4, which are the parks fee. And we're going to hear from City Manager Cotta and Interim Parks Director Rachel Dials on this topic. We don't have.
Good evening, councilors and commissioners. I'm going to try to make this presentation quick in order for you to all to have a very hearty discussion before the regular Parks Commission meeting. Just to give a quick recap of what's in the memo, the Resolution 2025-13 created a Parks and Recreation Department fee of $5 per month per household. The current fee has preserved operations, while the department has also implemented cost-saving efforts, roughly $319,000 per year in ongoing savings and $209,000 in savings to the city as a whole. Those efforts include, and I think we reviewed these at the last joint meeting, but some of them include staff reorganizations, including looking at managers and supervisor positions and actually aligning those and creating some vacancies. We also have a shared position with Public Works. We've adjusted our restroom hours, reduced irrigation and parks, and we have also now only do a digital guide instead of a printed guide, and many other things. Just to review the feedback that we've been getting from the strategic plan, over 2,000 responses were received, and Parks, Trails, and Recreation was the most positively mentioned service area from the in-person engagement and the survey. Residents pointed to strengths such as Lithia Park and City Parks maintenance, community events such as First Fridays, Lithia Park concerts, Halloween, and the 4th of July. Other major engagement received through the process: maintain existing parks and facilities, keep parks safe, welcoming, and accessible, expand trails and recreation opportunities, and create more activities and gathering places for families and youth. I did a slide on Southern Oregon cities with park fees. So, and the year the fee were established. So Ashland was, the park fee was created in 2025, and it is supposed to sunset on June 30 of 2027. We maintain 800 plus acres of land and 53 miles of trails. Medford, they have a parks fee that was created in 2005, $8.31. 800 plus acres, plus the additional Prescott Park, which is a little over 1,700 acres. Talent was created in 2004, and I did have a mistake in my memo, so I fixed that. It's actually $3.93 per household, and they manage and maintain 18 to 20 acres. Phoenix established their fee in 2019, $5.97 per household. They manage 30 acres. And they actually have a phased escalation schedule for their fee for 2026, 2027, and 2028. So this is just the current, $5.97 is the current, but they do have a plan to increase that fee. Central Point established their fee in 2015. That was another, their current fee is $250, but their fee varies by property type. So if it's a single family versus a multi-family or commercial. So it varies between $185 and $250, depending on the property type. And except for Ashland, no other Southern Oregon city has a sunset date on their park fee. The timing, October is when we start planning for the next biennium 27-29 budget. The ballot initiative that council sent through, if that initiative passes, a parks fee will be require voter approval. The soonest a parks fee could be placed on the ballot via special election at the cost of give or take $80,000. If it passed, that could be effective July 1st of 2027. May 2028 is the soonest that a parks fee could be placed on the ballot with no cost to the city. And if it passes, that would be effective July 1st of 2028. The current parks fee provides around $750,000 in revenue per year. If it sunsets and no additional revenue source is identified, we will likely need to cut $400,000 to $500,000 from our budget due to that loss. And so the request is for City Council to adopt a permanent parks fee by October 6th of this year.
So I just want to clarify this. The $400,000 to $500,000 would be cuts if we don't have a parks fee going into the next biennium.
That's correct.
Okay.
We would plan a budget with somewhere in that range, depending on what the what the assumptions end up being for going into the next biennium budget.
Well, I think we're going to stop here and have a few questions, and I'll let you go on. Are you almost done?
I'm done.
Oh, okay.
It was
It's
quick.
question time. We'll start
So-
over here. I see first Counselor Dale, then Counselor Kaplan, and then Commissioner Weiner.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Rachel. On the cuts, do you have any kind of reasonably comprehensive matrix as to what those cuts look like, how it would slide around? I understand that's a policy decision for the commission, but I mean, we're at second week in August here, so we have a little bit of time to kind of chew on this and understand. We've got till October 6th, but I think in order to have the most informed decision possible, and I would, you know, respectfully ask my colleagues on the commission, like what kind of information can be provided from staff through policymaking process of the commission, so that we can be the most informed possible, and the citizens can be the most informed possible, other than kind of a one-page, you know, and I understand the presentation, but as we got the council communication, it basically said, if not this, then cuts. And I think that, I think we are probably owed a lot more comprehensive information to be able to be as informed, so we can really understand.
So I guess what I would say to that is that I think we as staff would look at what we're legally required to do, so to offer. So that would be like park maintenance, trail maintenance, things like that. And then other thing, the nice to haves, that's what we would be looking at, like the extras, like the recreation, the senior services, I don't think that my analogy would be, I think we're done with fingernails at this point. We're looking at like digits of we're looking at whole programs, and we're looking at people. Like, we don't have other things to cut from the budget at this
Yeah,
point. is what I
and
would
nobody
say.
wants, you know, bathroom surgery, especially with reduced hours on the restroom. So, but I guess my question would be, my ask, just to put it out there generally to the park commission, would be, is it possible, if it hasn't been done already, to ask staff to say, can you come back with something that everybody can see? You know, some sort of presentation that goes, like, it's almost like it's like, I hear you on that, but I can't visualize exactly what that looks like. I need to see it, but that would just be my personal ask.
So just as a follow-up to that, it wouldn't just be the Parks Department that's affected, because it affects the whole general fund. So what would need to come back is what, you know, a cut of $500,000 out of the general fund would look like, and from what department. So what programs across the general fund would we look to remove? Because as Rachel stated, there's things we're legally required to do, and there's nice to haves, and that's across the board in the general fund. So that's what that matrix would look like.
So once again, to clarify my original question, this $500,000 figure is the total general fund. It's not about the parks budget. Okay, that's a different interpretation than I had. It's important. Let's see where we're at here. Yes, Councilor.
Thanks, Chair. Just to be sure I'm understanding, you mentioned the $400,000 to $500,000 in the biennium budget. Is that per year, or is that the total for the 2 years? Because the top bullet is per year, the loss of $750 in revenue per year. Are you expecting?
It would be per year.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Weiner.
Thanks, Chair. I have a couple of few questions, but when you presented information on parks fees attached to other cities in Southern Oregon, and when you mentioned the parks fee here, you said per household, but really it's per utility, which is a little different. Not significantly, but a little different. And I was wondering if you happen to know, Ashland's unique in that we can attach a fee to a utility because we own our own utilities, and others, I believe, cannot unless they own their own utilities, if I'm mistaken. So do you know what they attach their fees to, how that is assessed for the households?
Are you talking about the different, like the public utility fees? And
Yeah.
the
Well, so,
public-
you say, well, there's a parks fee for Ashland, for Medford. How does Medford, do they attach it to a utility bill? Do they
Yes,
attach it to
they
a property
attach it-
tax? Do they attach
These are all attached to the utility bill.
to utility
Yeah.
bills? Okay, thank you.
Councilor Bloom.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, quick question. Well, I've got two quick questions, if that's okay. Number one is the $750,000 number per year. So we're talking $1.5 million. How are we calculating that total?
So the park fee is assessed to every electric account only.
Right.
And it is roughly 12,500 electric utility accounts that is applied to monthly.
Okay, so I'm just curious because as city manager rightly pointed out, that really this is about the general fund, right? I mean, we're not talking about cutting $450,000, $500,000 out of parks. We're talking about cutting out of the general fund. So realistically, we could look at other departments to find these savings if we chose not to move forward with this fee. The reason I ask is that, you know, in the last budget process, we went through and Councilor Kaplan graciously suggested that we remove $100,000 out of the total collected from the parks fee to go to early learning grant programs. And so I just kind of think that it's an important thing to highlight for the community that this parks fee isn't going directly to parks. It is being used for other general fund purposes. And so when we're looking at potentially not having a fee, the cuts would also affect other general fund departments and not parks specifically. And then the other quick question or point that I wanted to make is, I think rightly you pointed out that the survey said the most positively mentioned service area, it being parks, but it also says that alongside specific criticism of maintenance. And so I think that that's an important thing to highlight, that the community is saying here that that is something that we need to be investing in.
Councillor Hanson?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Rachel, Bryn. I'm curious if the city wanted to adjust the other fees that we have attached to our utility bills as well. They would, what would happen to the general fund if those fees were increased?
The public safety support fee and the park fee go to the general fund. The wildfire fee goes to the wildfire fund. Street fee goes to the street fund. Storm drain goes to the storm drain fund. So the impact would be just to the franchise fee that is then contributed to the general fund from those funds.
Okay, well, thank you. I mean, the obvious point I'm trying to make is we have another lever we can pull to bring more money into the general fund. And this discussion, as has been reminded here, is very important to bring up, that this is not a scrutiny of Parks budget. This is more about how we pull different levers to balance our budget. And then, of course, on the other side of the ledger, we have to look at services and programs. And of course, you know, we've got all these different matrix of importance, right? We've got, you know, livability, we have equity, we have, you know, economic development. You know, there's all of this that we see as supported in our survey too by people that are living here. And then there's just what people can pay and how expensive it is to live anywhere, but particularly in Ashland. Ashland has a premium to it on a couple of different levels, right? So, you know, running some back of napkin math here, there was a proposal to raise the parks fee or initiate the parks fee at $9. You know, early in the discussion when we brought the fees to the public. And that would bring in approximately 1.35 million. And then that would, of course, cover our deficit that we have here. But then, you know, we're kicking the can down the road. And we can sit on our laurels even if we did that, because we have escalating insurance is up from, you know, our 8% to 12%. We've got a lot of stuff to figure out. And certainly the budget process is going to smooth a lot of that out. But looking at your matrix from the research, Medford's at $8.31 is kind of like where we're at the high end, and we're kind of like right in there at the middle. Have you ran projections based on what this matrix is? And, you know, anyways, is there a staff ask? Is kind of where I'm going with this. I heard the commission talk about, you know, wanting some numbers brought back. I thought that was great, but do you have anything to share with us?
I think for now, what we're asking for is for the parks fee to be renewed at the current level, I think is the first ask.
Okay.
So,
and
you know,
one more, if I will.
We have not run numbers to see, you know, what what other things are needed at this point, so.
This one's for you, city manager. So the adoption by October 6th, what's the importance of that date?
So as we start to budget, we're going to want to know what our revenue sources are. So we'll need to know whether or not we can include the parks fee as a revenue source.
Right, and there's a potential ballot measure that could change things, so we have to get ahead of that if we want to have control within these, these bodies.
Yeah, I think Director Dials did a good job of laying out kind of the timeline for what it would take to take a fee through a ballot process moving forward. So it's definitely a longer process.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Graham.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to speak a little bit to the October 6th timing. At the upcoming meeting, the council is going to be looking at an ordinance that puts in place a structure for having public engagement around utility bill increases. And if it goes forward, it is designed to not be able to move that fast. So October wouldn't be an option in terms of that, should we put that structure in place. And I appreciate that no other community has a sunset date, but we did the sunset date specifically for a reason. And that was because things were moving so fast, the projections were on top of us in the budget process. We wanted time to do the work that we've been doing, that the commission's been doing, that the staff's been doing, to see where we could have reductions in cost, to see where there might be some shifts in revenue, to see, to what extent is that needed. So that conversation around this parks fee, I think, is appropriately timed for now. But I think it is very likely that it is not going to be able to be done by the timing that you all are looking at. I think the goal would have to be that it's done sometime early on in the budget process so that it's not being changed in March or April. But I think that if we are going to do the type of engagement process that we have told this community we want to do, that is not going to happen by October 6th, whether we put this ordinance in place or not. And so I think we need to be clear about what that timing is likely to look like.
Next up is Councilor Dale, and I'm seeing other people want to come back in.
Thank you, Chair. Couple quick questions. Remind me, Brent, if you wouldn't mind, on the delinquent utility bills, what percentage of, we'll call it total, is it? I mean, you can guesstimate it. I'm just curious. And I don't really need it. I guess what I was saying is should we budget 750,000 is this times 12,000 utility meters? I guess right? I mean, is that what you're doing? Right. Okay. So if we're not collecting X percentage of that, then why are we budgeting for the full amount when we're not collecting the full amount? So that's one question, and that might be rhetorical at this time, but I just would think that. And then my second question would be, I think I heard, and please correct me, Rachel, but this fee goes into the general fund, correct? And did I hear you correctly say that it could be used by multiple departments? Like childcare, so forth? Does it used by multiple departments?
So the general fund revenue is, for example, property tax.
Sure.
Property tax is not dedicated to one department. So all general fund revenue goes into the general fund for the purpose of the fund. However, we have associated this fee with the Parks Department. So, but if, as the city manager was commenting, if we do reduce the fee, then it's not just that the Parks Department would be reduced. We would have to look at the total fund to see where the best place would be to reduce for that.
So maybe I'm still confused on that because, like, to your point, just kind of reading the resolution, and it says a parks fee of $5,000, we know this, should be charged whatever to an active electric meter to fund the Parks and Recreation Department in the general fund. So it goes to parks in that department, like whatever that number should be goes to, and I understand there's a cost allocation methodology with certain folks, facilities, public works, so forth, there's crossover. I get that, but this is for parks. per the resolution. So I understand that money is fungible relative to revenue coming into a fund, but is it from an allocation to a department? Like, I'm struggling to understand why, if you're telling me that we would have to look at cuts in other departments, if this fee goes down because of the cost allocation methodology that we use relative to utilizing staff and certain FTEs across departments, fine, I understand that and would be interested in seeing that math. But if you're telling me that other departments have to suffer, or cut, suffer may not be the right word, but we have to look at other cuts relative to other departments, when this is specific to parks, I'm still not reconciling in that mind. This goes to the Parks Department. That's Parks money in their department.
No.
I mean, that's what the resolution says.
So fund accounting, we have several departments that are within the general fund.
I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, so back to, we would need to make a decision on what is required service level for the general fund in its entirety if this fee was not there. If we have requirements that we are required to do for certain departments, and by reducing this fee, we cannot meet those requirements, then those departments are relying on the full funding of the general fund.
So I guess the question would be, and I appreciate that, Brandon, and sorry to cut you
Let me
off.
just interrupt a second. City manager would like to speak to this.
Yeah, so I would think about it like this. So we get the 750K, it goes to parks. That frees up 750K of general fund revenue to go towards like funding the legal department, for example. So if we take that revenue out of the general fund, it's not just coming out of parks. It's now we have this pot of money that must be spread across all of these general fund needs.
I guess I just don't understand that. Like,
Including parks.
right, but I'm just saying, if you didn't have
Backfilling.
$750,000 for parks, legal still is legal's budget.
Yeah, but now we don't have that revenue. Legal isn't making,
Yeah, but
there's no legal fee.
we should be budgeting for legal and all the other departments through property taxes and all the other revenue sources that we have. So, I mean, we can certainly take this up. I don't want to belabor it. I'm just, I just on record for being confused on how we do this, so.
I just want to comment at this point that if the parks fee doesn't renew, the entire general fund would have to absorb a deficit in revenue, and it would be my hope that the Parks Department would not be the only department that absorbed that.
But I would say to you, Chair, and I hear you on that and would agree with that line of thinking, but as this resolution as written, it would.
In your opinion, the resolution specifies.
It says right here, the Parks and Recreation Department.
Right, but
Right,
that
but
doesn't mean that the general fund couldn't backfill that, so that the department would not absorb the entire decrease.
Okay, I understand that.
Okay, I think, Commissioner Gardner is up next.
Thank you, Chair. Let's switch gears a little bit. Two things that I heard. Well, first of all, let me say, from a parks perspective, our ask is that the park fee be renewed. And we would like to calculate the amount that fee needs to be based on continuing the service level that we are currently offering. So, but that's somewhat dependent on the city projections for the coming biennium. But, so it's a little bit difficult to figure out what levels the city thinks are going to fund parks, fee or no fee, and then, well, with no fee, and then figure out what the difference is at that point. And that's what a potential fee could be, to basically fill that gap on what the city general fund is willing to fund parks at that level, and then the fee would be generated from what's the difference. Now, the overall goal would be to meet those requirements that were listed there that citizens are expecting, and if maintenance of the parks is a question, then obviously we have to fund that first and foremost. And then if we either don't get full funding or there's no park fee, then we have to itemize what are the best places to reduce the services that we offer. Is it senior services? Is it some other major program that we have? we want to answer those questions, but it's difficult to just list them out right now without knowing what the proposed budget could potentially be.
And I'll just jump on that one real quick. I wouldn't want to use our staff time to do this sort of analysis until we know how all of the general fund budgets are going to shake out. Then we could begin to prioritize which services we might need to take down. So it does take the whole process playing out. Next up is Commissioner Weiner, and then Councilor Hanson.
Thanks, Chair. So really a question, I guess, for both Parks and City staff. Thinking about the challenges that we had with the previous budget process in the biennium, somewhat related to what Chair Bachman's speaking to. There was a budget, and then there was a question about whether the budget was going to be funded, and then it wasn't, and then there was more, and it was this back and forth, and it was sort of a mysterious grab bag, and it resulted in delays and last-minute efforts, and it was a challenge. So I guess I'm curious as to understanding those historic problems and challenges. I'm curious as to the process that we're thinking about as a department and as a city staff to move forward to sort of reconcile that balance between the city budget, the parks budget. There's some collaborative work that certainly needs to be done, regardless, honestly, of what. I mean, we've seen the budget forecast. It ain't pretty, and so regardless, we're going to need to come together and figure out where those opportunities are to shave off some dollars. What services, what facilities, so is there a process that you're thinking of for this year to collaboratively work together to get that done at an early state so that we're not doing last ditch hurdles?
So you're in the process right now. This is part of the process. So what we're doing right now is trying to get direction from the elected bodies of what we're looking at in terms of revenue sources. Right? And later, we're going to have a discussion about some service levels in some areas, and we'll take those decisions and begin crafting the budget. So right now, the question really is, are we preserving this as a revenue source for the general fund? That is the question before us tonight. And do you want to direct staff to bring back a resolution that doesn't sunset? So I think there's no question that we don't have enough revenue coming in to meet the service needs across the board for the general fund. There are only so many levers that can be pulled to create revenue. And one of those levers may go away with this next election. So, we've had the parks fee for over a year now. There was a lot of public support for it when we brought it forward. And so how would this body like to proceed? That's what we're looking for tonight.
Thank you. Councilor Hanson, and then Mayor Graham, and then Councilor Bloom.
Thank you, Chair. My question's twofold. First is to Mayor Graham. You mentioned our intentions with regards to bringing the community earlier into the fold for fees. And I remember some head nods in that meeting, but I don't remember a vote or resolution or timeline. Could you update us on that?
Sure. The council's direction was to staff to come back with an ordinance, and they're coming at this next upcoming Tuesday meeting with the elements that were in the council packet around this issue that outlined what that process would be. So that's coming back in a formalized version to us next Tuesday.
Right. So, thank you. So we could potentially kick the can on that to whatever timeline we want for implementation because we haven't put it to a vote. It's not a resolution binding.
Right. The purpose of it, though, is to make sure that there's adequate time for the community to understand a fee before it gets put on and to be able to participate in the conversation. So it specifically makes it so that the council cannot move too fast on this type of a thing. It could certainly be done by the end of the year. It just wouldn't be able to be done by October 6th the way that the ordinance is laid out currently.
Correct, unless we don't pass it.
unless you don't pass it.
Or we put stipulations that it lights up in 2027 or whatever,
Yeah.
whatever the council chooses. Great, thank you. So then the second question is, what is the process for including a public safety fee increase with the parks fee? Because I'm really curious why we're not talking about that now as well. I know this is a parks collaboration here, but everything's on the table.
Yeah, so we would just need council direction to bring back a resolution.
Right. So I'm thinking that these two bodies really needs to think of this as many have been talking about this already. It's a general fund lift. And, despite our best efforts and cuts, we are not keeping up with the property tax revenue that is needed to support all the increases in the general fund, just not happening. All the cities in Oregon are dealing with this. So I would like us to consider raising both the parks fee and the public safety fee in equal amounts. So the optics of that is better, I think, for citizens. And I'd also like to take the opportunity to take a bite at the apple and don't put a sunset on this. I think, with all due respect to what Mayor Graham is trying to do, I think this is a special circumstance where we need to get ahead of this. So I'd like us to consider raising both fees and eliminating the sunset. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm just going to echo what my colleague, Commissioner Gardner, said. My personal position is this is about the general fund, that the general fund will need revenue beyond any sunset. And so my personal preference for the health of the city in general is a parks fee, because as we have seen, the parks activities are well received, and that it be permanent. And it's not about parks, it's about the general fund. Okay, we're back to Mayor Graham, if you wanted to speak more. No? Okay. That's then to Councilor Bloom.
Thank you, Chair. I unplugged. Just a couple of things. One, I very much want to call out and appreciate Mayor Graham's proposal. I think we went around and it was pretty unanimous that we want that to come back in ordinance, and I look forward to that. As for process, it was suggested that, and I'm hearing some colleagues suggest that let's raise some fees, let's bring in some revenue, let's get it to staff so that they can come up with a budget to fund some programs. And then come budget process, we come back, we find out, well, there's some things we can't do, so now we gotta pivot. That's exactly how we got here in the first place. And so I would posit to my colleagues that the appropriate process would be to ask staff to work on what they already are, developing a budget in consideration that this is sunset and they're not going to be able to do it, come back to these bodies and say, here's where we are. Across the board, not just parks, but across all of the departments within the general fund, because we don't have X revenue, this is what it looks like and this is what we're going to have to cut. And then that way, as a legislative body, we are making intentional decisions to say, okay, that's not palatable. There are things in here that we believe that we need to fund. What is it going to take to fund X, Y, and Z? These are intentional decisions that we're making, and it's transparent for the public to be able to see what decisions we're making. Further, and I'll just end on this because I'm considerate of the rest of your meeting that you have to get through, is that I think that it's also worth studying and looking at a scaled fee system. I like the idea. What Central Point does is that based on certain housing types or commercial, that maybe there's different levels. How do we make this more equitable for our community and for the people that are using our parks, or the people that are, or the businesses that are benefiting from our parks? So again, I don't think that we're there yet. I appreciate Mayor Graham's proposal, and I think it'll allow us to flesh out some of these questions and give staff time to do a budget process that's maybe more appropriate and maybe more transparent. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Lott?
Thank you, Chair. I was just making notes what I want to say. I want to say two things. One, about the parks fee. It's really a unique circumstance in that it's a fee that's already been initiated. It's in place. The only thing it isn't permanent. So when we think about it in terms of whether we could do this quickly or not. It seems to me that you can make an argument that because it's a unique situation, that it wouldn't be all that out of line to make that fee permanent at this time. And then the second thing I wanted to say was, it's been great that staff in their presentation showed the comparison with other cities' parks fees, and that's really useful information. But I think that it would be even better and more transparent if it also showed the total utility fees for each of these towns, because that's really, if I'm a resident and I'm paying utility fees, I just see I have all these fees, but it'd be interesting to see how it looks compared to these other cities. Thank you.
I'm thinking that's say a percentage of the total utility bill, something like that. Percentage of the total bill.
No,
So that
it's just a number. If you add up all the parks fee for each town, you're going to have a number. There's a number for Ashland, there's a number for Medford. You just add them all up, and you have a total
dollars.
utility fees.
Okay. Councilor Dale.
Thank you, Chair. So it occurs to me, and I'm less confused than I was 5 minutes ago. No, but I understand. In all seriousness, I do understand, Mr. Gardner, what you're saying, Councilor Hanson. But like Councilor Bloom had said about 45 minutes ago on another topic, we have a marketing problem. This is not a parks fee. This is a general fund fee. Okay. So if this doesn't go to the Parks Department, and so the issue that people are struggling with is you see $750,000 or whatever that is, and you think, okay, that's going to parks. But if it goes to a legal department, or it goes to somewhere else, or it goes to fire, or it goes to administration, whatever, it's not a parks fee anymore. Just like a wildfire fee isn't a wildfire fee, and a public safety fee isn't a public safety fee. So the point is we have a general fund problem. We don't have a parks problem, right? So to Councilor Hanson's point, like, you have different levers. It's just one lever if we're just talking about the general fund. So the question is, and this, my ask, or I guess my question would be is, if it's a general fund issue, and it doesn't actually get dedicated to a given department, despite what the resolution says, and I may or may not die on that hill eventually, it really doesn't matter, but it's a general fund issue. So why are we not looking at the budget holistically, going through and saying, this is the one fee that citizens are going to be asked to pay, all of us, through this, so that we can operate all of the things that makes this city great. Parks, public safety, wildfire, all of those things. Instead of feeling like you're nickel and dime to all these things, and I paid $5.15 to parks, but really I only get about 80%, 80 cents on the dollar for that, because I don't know how that works, and kind of with public safety, like Councilor Hanson was saying, like, why don't you just say we have a general fund thing and saying this is the gap, this is what Measure 5 and 50 has done, this is our property tax issue, these are our revenue sources, this is what we need to operate this city. Staff is doing the best they can as far as services, as far as efficiencies. We can have that discussion as part of a budget, but we're sitting here just carving this into death by 1,000 paper cuts when it's not even going to the thing that it's supposed to go to at 100 cents on the dollar. So I guess I would ask maybe Sabrina, is this because this is the best practice of how we do this? And I'm fine if that's what it is and I'm not understanding.
Yeah, with all due respect, that was all wrong. So,
Okay, tell me.
First of all,
That's fine. I'm willing to update my model of
the
understanding.
wildfire fee goes to a dedicated wildfire fund.
Okay.
So take that out of the conversation. Second of all, the revenue that comes in through the parks fee is dedicated to the Parks Department, and the public safety fee that comes into fire and police go to those departments. Those revenues are allocated to those departments. So yes, it's a general fund problem, but we are creating revenue specific to those services.
Yeah, but you still, okay. Okay, all right.
Mayor Graham.
Thank you, Chair. I think one of the ways to think about it is that if it is a revenue source, If we have a fee, it does go to the particular department. If we don't have that fee, then we have a question of what cuts across the general fund do we deal with it, right? So some of those are likely to be parks, because parks tends to come out on the bad end of cuts when it's up against fire and police and planning and things that are required of the city. And so it's important for us to be clear that if we do move forward with a parks fee, that is actually where it's going. But it is a different question if we have to carve that out of the general fund. So it's important for us to understand, I think, that distinction. One of the things that I did when we started to have this conversation was I reached out to the other mayors across the state and said, do you have these fees? And to Councilor Bloom's point, several of them wrote back and said, yes, we do have them, and we tier them to square footage, or we tier them in some fashion. So a 5,000 square foot home isn't paying the same parks fee or any of these other fees as, say, a 500 square foot apartment. And so I am interested in us looking at the full structure of the fees, right? So that we're looking not only at what is the total we need to bring in to keep the general fund whole through these different departments, but how is that being distributed across? And so I would support entirely looking at this. It is difficult to have all of these conversations with the potential of this ballot measure that's coming, because if it passes, then we should not look at that, because we wouldn't be able to do anything with that structure without having, taking all that process and going through a vote and making sure that we understand that. We wouldn't want to rescind anything because we wouldn't be able to do that without a vote process, and so that would push us into 2028 probably, potentially, depending on what that structure looks like. But I think if we were looking for guidance to staff around this, what I have heard so far is I have one person who is saying, bring an ordinance forward for us to consider a parks fee now. I have one person who is saying to wait and move through the budget process as it is currently operating. So if we're looking for that staff guidance, we need to keep going around to the counselors and find out what people are thinking. Yes?
Just if I could offer clarification on my position on that is I want to be clear that I'm not saying move through the budget process and then come May, all of a sudden we're trying to figure this out, right? That's how we got here in the first place. What I'm saying is staff is going to start developing the budget through this fall. We should be coming back in January and saying, okay, here's where we are, here's what we need or can do to inform those decisions. And maybe it's a sooner timeline. I don't know how long it's going to take staff to be able to develop that, but I just want to be clear about that. I'm not trying to kick the can too far down the road on this.
Yeah, I guess maybe I didn't phrase that entirely correctly, but yeah, so it would be, do we want to look at something immediate about protecting this specific fee, or do we want to get a little bit further down in the budget process before we take up the question? Is that fair? Okay.
Hey,
So,
Mayor Graham, can I just, I acknowledge that Commissioner Weiner had something to say, and then I'm going to give the floor back to you to take care of working at a consensus with your counselors.
Thanks, Chair. So trying to piece together all of the things that folks have said, and I think a lot of right things have been said, but I tend to boil things down to real a simpler view, and I think, quite frankly, you're all kind of right, because it's really one big bucket of money that we're talking about with a bunch of smaller compartments within that budget. If we think back to where we started this whole process regarding discussion of a parks fee, it came about with a 5% across the board city budget cut. If I recall from 2 years ago, I can barely remember yesterday, but I believe that was the deal. There was a across the board cut that was requested. Parks Department at the time came back and said, we can only afford to do X if our budget is Y. Scramble, scramble, scramble. We came up with the parks fee proposal. It was moved forward. That backfilled a budgetary deficit in the Parks Department to fund the services and programs that we offer. Wouldn't have had to do it if it hadn't had to already come out of the general fund, because all the money's come out of the general fund at some point, right? So if we really think about it, absolutely correct. If we don't get the parks fee, some of that money is going to need to come out of the general fund. And if we do get the parks fee, that's going to be able to allow some other monies to stay in the general fund that aren't going to need to fund park services. So we're really talking about one big bucket, a bunch of stuff in it. And Councilor Dale's right. Are we talking about chopping it all up into little bits? Should we talk about it in a big budget? Should we? It doesn't matter. Let's look at the big numbers. Let's figure out what it's going to take to fund the city, including Parks Department. Probably should be looking at two separate parallel budgets to say, here's the budget and what we can do with, and here's the budget and what we can do without this fee or that fee. And then we can make informed decisions as to what we're willing to invest or risk losing.
Thank you. And I'm now turning the floor back over to the mayor to kind of wrap this up and give some direction to city staff, and then we'll adjourn and get ready for our next meeting.
So other counselors?
Yes, please.
Counselor Duquesne?
Sorry, Bob. So quickly, I agree. I think Central Point's doing it the right way. I agree with that. When I look at holistic budget, I agree with that. What I would like to say is that I believe creating a budget moving forward, we should create it without having the money, because we don't know what it's going to look like in November. Many know that I support the charter change and having this come to the forefront, and our residents can vote on this opportunity in November. We don't know if that's going to pass or not. So rather than to put something together that's a what if, I think we should budget as if it isn't and let the people go ahead and vote. And I stand by the people and support that, allowing them to go ahead and vote, and then we can see what happens, because it's a difference between day and night. So I believe in the charter change. I want to see the people vote. I don't want to see a budget with $5 in it. The parks fee is a progressive parks fee. So anyway, that's another agenda. However, I feel like being proactive, put it together without the parks fee in there, let the people vote in November and see what we have and we don't have. And when we look at cutting, we always say cutting services. When I look at the money in and the money out, the biggest bite of the budget is our personnel. So I would like for us to look at not just taking services away from the people.
Councilor Kaplan?
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Chair. So I'd like to tie this conversation about the parks fee together with the discussion that we had about the forecasting for the general fund at the first part of this meeting. Not sunsetting this parks fee means the loss of $750,000 in each year. What the cumulative effect, though, because you're taking it out of fiscal 28, the actual fiscal 29 budget is $1.5 million less. The number in fiscal 30 is $2.25 million less. The number in fiscal 31 is $3 million less. So we're digging a deeper and deeper hole at a time when my colleagues are saying, and rightly so, that we're going to have to make some adjustments because our revenues and our expenditures are not in balance. What we're doing by sunsetting this, we would be choosing to reduce our revenues by this amount. That's created more of a necessity in the future, pretty quickly. And this is at a time when we already know that there's a $1.5 million to $2.5 million in balance between operating revenue and operating expenses that we're going to have to deal with in the rest of this fiscal year as we look at other services, which most services are provided by staff. So staff and services is not always one and the same thing, but there's a very close correspondence between staff and services. Our ambulance service is provided by staff. Yes, there's some goods that could be cut, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to operate an ambulance service without those goods. You cut this, if you reduce the ambulance service, you're reducing staff. Same thing with parks. The parks are, it's people that are maintaining the pieces. So frankly, I appreciate the mayor's ordinance to change the way that we approve fees in the future. I'll support that, strongly support that. I appreciate, though, Commissioner Lance's observation that this is not a new fee. This is a removal of a sunset. So I would prefer to see us remove the sunset before we get into this so that we can take the hard decisions that we're going to have to make. We're still going to have to make pretty hard decisions going into this budget process. Why would we want to make it even harder than it already is? So I think the practical, sensible thing to do would be to remove the sunset. It has had adding the fee in this last year has resulted in some savings, as we hoped it would, but it did not obviate the need for that fee in order to fund the ongoing work in the city. So I would prefer to see us remove the sunset from that fee. I'm not in favor of adding extra fees, raising fees. I don't want to see that at this point. I'd rather see that happen if that's necessary with the ordinance that the mayor has mentioned that we'll be starting consideration next time. And I would also like to see a eventual redesign of the fee. I'm also interested in the design aspect of the parks fee and the public safety fee, for that matter. If there's a fairer, more equitable way to spread the burden on these fees, I'm all for it. I think we could do those redesign. That would be revenue neutral. The idea would be to make that revenue neutral, so we could do that during the course of the biennium at a proper time. It wouldn't have to be worked out. In my mind, I don't think we'd have to work that out beforehand.
Councilor Dale?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, just still looking to be informed. One just really quick question to you, Brent. On the two ordinances, or correction, the resolutions for the wildfire, which goes into the wildfire division, which is part of the public, or the fire department, I guess your fire and rescue department, is that how that would be? And then the public safety emergency services would technically be the fire department and all those divisions and police, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so if those fees went away, would it only affect those two departments, or would it have a trickle-down effect to other departments within the general fund?
So those fees are dedicated towards public safety. However, we do have to think of the fund in total.
Correct.
So they're dedicated. The parks fee is dedicated to parks, but we do have to think of it as the fund in total.
Correct. So if those public fees and those wildfires went away, we would have a knock-on effect.
Wildfire is a different fund. Wildfire.
Well, it's not a fund, it goes into a division, right?
No, it's its own fund. It's its own fund. Wildfire risk reduction is its own fund with only one singular division within the fire department within it. So it's a strictly true revenue source just for that division within the fire department.
Okay, so there is a separate fund, so that fund is not part of the general fund, is what you're saying? Okay, all right, but the public safety is?
Correct, it's
Yeah,
general fund,
okay.
yes.
And if that went away, you would have the knock-on effect of other things that we would compress the general fund as a whole, correct? Okay, all right. Yeah, I'll make this brief. Until we get this sorted out so that we can actually see this from a holistic standpoint and we can actually get the wording right for this, this isn't necessarily a parks fee. I mean, I actually feel bad for the commission having to wrestle with something that's called a parks fee when it really isn't dedicated to the parks in whole. That if this goes away, that everything's compressed or they only see a certain thing. So I too absolutely completely support the mayor's ordinance proposed and where we're going to have that discussion. So at this time, and I understand completely what Councilor Kaplan is saying too, like we're digging a hole deeper, potentially, absolutely, but there is a lot of discussion left to have, and I just don't want to be rushed as we go into this because we are at a serious inflection point.
So the two of you have already spoken, correct? Did you need to say something else, Councilor Bloom?
I kind of threw out the idea, but I'd like to actually have a chance to speak to it.
I believe Councilor Hanson probably would as well, right? Do you want to go first, or? Okay.
Go ahead, Councilor Bloom, and then Councilor Hanson.
Yeah, so, to be clear, and kind of a little throwback, a couple of things. One, if I'm recalling correctly, we established the wildfire fund intentionally separate so that those monies couldn't be pulled from wildfire purposes and used for other general fund purposes within fire and rescue. Secondly, to this topic in particular, there's this, I'm sensing from some saying, we have to pass this now. It's an emergency. We have to pass this now because, God, November, if that ballot measure passes, we'll never be able to change anything. You know how we prevent that ballot measure from passing? Is we do things intentionally, we do it transparent, and we prove to the community that we have learned our lesson, that we're not going to rush things through, that we're going to do it right. And if we pass this fee, right, or we remove, let's say, the sunset, and let's say that the ballot measure does pass, it would prevent us from having a conversation about maybe a different methodology of being able to implement a parks fee, right? So let's do the smart thing. Let's slow down. Let's follow the process that the mayor has laid out. Let's talk about what a parks fee looks like so that we can make sure that our parks are funded to the degree that this community wants, which I completely support. And I think also we need to have a conversation about across the general fund and how we develop a budget. And it's not coming to this council or the budget committee or the community and demanding more money because we didn't look at things holistically, as the word is being thrown around. So I would strongly encourage that that's the direction that we go, and we don't just kind of, hair on fire, let's just pass this thing because we don't know what's going to come next. That's not responsible governance.
Councilor Hanson?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate everything that's been said and new ideas, fresh ideas. I love the idea of a progressive tax structure based around the parks fee. I just want to reiterate that I think when we do look at raising a fee again, at some point we have staff recommendation on what that number is, and that we also look at raising the public safety fee at the same time in equal measure as the parks fee. And I know this is a marketing issue, if you will, but that will free up money for the general fund. With regards to what we're here to do today, in particular, Commissioner Lant, pointed out this is an existing fee. I don't think we need to throw money at this situation right now. I'm not suggesting that we raise any fees, but I definitely think we need to remove that sunset. With regards to your process, as you proposed, Mayor, I think it's great, and I think you're going to get support from me, especially if we can lock in this sunset. I would hate for this to not be a part of the budget, and if October 6th is our deadline, it does seem like there's actual urgency there that we need to get ahead of it. So that's what I have for that. Thank you.
So it's been a really interesting conversation because I think in many ways you can think about the sunset in a couple of different ways, right? Do you take the sunset off? It is an existing fee. We have it. We've been collecting it for over a year. So it's not a new fee, and it's not a significant increase over an indexed change, which is what we already have in place. So it wouldn't necessarily have to be following the ordinance that I'm bringing forward, right? That we can legitimately consider this a separate question from that. I think the transparency and the engagement and knowing those numbers and having that conversation with the community is still important, whether this council were to decide to look at releasing the end date as a separate question. We still need to take the lessons from the past and move forward in that way. I don't see there being a conflict between the ordinance that I'm proposing and, should this council choose to do it, to a move to simply remove the end date of this particular fee. But I think if we do that, we should make sure that we're still following a rigorous public engagement process. The difficulty we have here right now is that we don't have clear guidance from this council. We have a split council this evening. And so I think we need to have a little bit more conversation. We need to have our full council here when we do it. So I think we need to put this on an agenda item and get some specific guidance to council. It also, or to staff, and it allows us to give some more time to think as well. Go ahead, Councilor
Yeah,
Bloom.
just quick question. I'm curious what you mean by a split council, because I heard three of us say that we wanted to kind of work through a process and not move forward.
I'm part of the council when it goes to direction, and if I were pushed tonight, I would say to bring forward
I see,
a
because we're
motion.
not voting, you're not breaking a tie, you're just kind of throwing your voice
So when we
behind it.
do council direction, we all have equal voice to that, and we have 6 people here, and we're missing someone. So what I'd like to do is to pick this back up again at a near date and decide and give us all a little bit of chance to think it through a little bit more. Give us a chance to talk through how we see removing this sunset date, because we don't have clear direction at this particular point. So Sabrina and I will talk about when we can get that on, but we know we need to do it quickly. Either direction, we need to be having this conversation and moving it forward. So that is my intention.
Thank you. Without further joint meeting business, this meeting is adjourned. We're going to take a 10-minute break, or so if everybody could be back here, or 9, very close to 7:30. Thank you. I'll bring the meeting to order shortly. I have to do some clerical work. Thank you. Thank you for staying. And I'm calling the meeting to order at 7:33. For the record, meeting called to order at 7:33. Welcome to the second half of our day of meetings. This is the Park Commission regular business meeting for August 12, 2026. First, we've already taken care of roll call, and there have been no changes since we started the other meeting. The first item on the agenda, which is number 7 in the total list, but we won't worry about that, is approval of minutes. We have one set of minutes, which is the Commission regular business meeting of July 8th, 2026. Does anybody have any changes? Seeing none. I'll ask for unanimous consent, hearing no objection. Park Commission regular business meeting, July 8th, 2026. Business, I'll get this right eventually. Minutes are approved. No additions or deletions from the agenda that I'm aware of, and I would be aware of them. Public forum. So we have 3 people who want to speak to something not on the agenda, so we'll start with that. And I'll just ask all 3 to come up, and I'm hoping that Interim Director Dials is getting her famous chime out. We're going to do 3 on these, and then when we get to the pickleball, there'll be 2 each. Okay, so for public forum, you can speak 3 minutes each, and I'll call you up in the order that I think I got them. Lisa Norvell. And the protocol, if you haven't done this before, is we line up along the wall in the order I call you. The microphone should be on. Is that correct? Okay. Our timekeeper is Interim Director Dials, and she has a system, and she's going to explain it, and then I'll finish calling people up.
I will hit the chime once when you have 10 seconds left, and I will hit the chime twice when you need to complete. And you have 3 minutes.
Yeah, 3 minutes on public forum tonight. So Lisa Norvell was the first one, Molly Gramley, and John Spitzley. Got it.
Okay.
On something not on our agenda. Go ahead and identify yourself, the city you live in, and then start on in.
Okay. My name is Lisa Norvell, and I live in Ashland. I've lived here, I don't know, like maybe 34 years or something of that. And I'm just here as a proponent of the pool, the Daniel Meyer pool. It was fascinating to listen to that meeting earlier. I've never attended one of these. And when I think of kicking cans down the road, that is what has happened at the Daniel Meyer pool. And we have an incredible group there that swims and works really hard to keep that pool going. But it is so important for the parks to keep that pool up. To
Will you
maintain-
speak into the microphone a little
Yeah,
bit?
to maintain that community, we have multi-generations of people that are swimming all levels. It's so important, just water safety for kids with all of our lakes and rivers around here. Like the #1 cause of death of kids under 4 is just drowning. So, I mean, if that's not enough reason, like swimming prevention is death prevention. So to have a community pool for all of our kids and young families to gather, to meet, to draw people to this community. I sell real estate. People ask me all the time, is there a community pool? And I'm like, yes, I share the hours. They might come see it. They don't understand why there's not more hours. They don't understand why it's not kept up. And I don't have an answer for them. So people choose other communities. They choose Bend. They choose Medford with Rogue X. You know, it's a hard sell to encourage them to come at, you know, the odd hours of Daniel Meyer Pool when it's falling apart. So we maybe have 2 more years left in that liner that was generously bought through Parks and Rec or General Fund, I'm not sure anymore. But we did get a liner for the pool. That liner is coming apart. And so it's just something that we need to be ahead of, or we're going to lose the pool. And I was telling Molly, my dear friend, who we swim together, I used to be a big runner, and I've used all the extracurricular activities around in Ashland. That's why I'm here. But after ankle surgery, swimming has been wonderful, and I see that with so many people. We have people with disabilities at the pool that swim. I mean, it provides such an amazing resource for everybody that uses it. What was I going to say about Molly? I've totally lost my track. There was an endowment fund. I looked up the history of the Daniel Meyer Pool, and also, you know, it's kind of a shame that this pool was granted and given to us, and we haven't kept it up. And it's like keeping up a car. You wouldn't just not put your oil in, not put your gas in, not get your tires. You wouldn't just let your car fall apart and then go buy a new car. It's so expensive. You wouldn't do it with your house, and we should not let that happen with this pool. You know, we've lost too many pools. We've lost the SOU pool. Kids that come here, families that come that have kids that swim, they're like, well, where's the swim team practice? Okay, well, now we go to Rogue X, or, you know, maybe we get some time at the Y that's very, very warm and hot. And so, you know, that's a deterrent for people coming here. And we clearly need more money. I mean, that's what I heard tonight, is we need more money. We get it from our property taxes. So let people come here and move and, you know, support the pool.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Molly Gramley, and I've lived and worked in Ashland for the past 20 years. I first want to thank you for the improvements that you have made to the pool this season. The locker room now has showers that are working, which we love. And I think there's been some new flags for us who do backstroke, and the lane lines have been kept up. So thank you for that. My kids learned to swim in the pool, and that's where they had their swim lessons when they were 3 years old, which is now 20 years ago. My husband has swum masters for 20 years, and he's the current high school water polo coach. He also which is all volunteer. He also volunteers for the city of Ashland to run the water polo program at Daniel Meyer on Wednesday evenings. It's very popular. The kids have a ton of fun, and it's multi-generational. There can be like a 5-year-old that shows up, and I think last week he said there was someone who was around 80 who hopped in for the first time. So it's really a multi-generational use. And then for me personally, I mean, that my family's obviously personal, but for me personally, when my kids left for college 5 years ago, I just felt, I'm a runner, but I just really was like, you know, I need a new community. I joined Masters. I don't mind, you know, we clean the locker rooms, but we make it fun. You know, we show up at 5:30 in the morning, and that community has really been what makes me want to continue living in Ashland. I'm not retired yet, probably another 5 years, but Andy and I talk about that this is where we want to stay, and we want to stay here because of the pool community. So I hope that, my hope is just that you continue to prioritize maintaining, keeping the pool up, and if at some point we win the lottery, we get to have a new pool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is John Spitzley. I live in Ashland. I'm going to start by volunteering to replace the photo of the pickleball courts there with Lithia Park pickleball courts. I'm not sure where that one came from, but I volunteer. We have some great photos. I'm a little bit in subterfuge here in that I am going to talk about pickleball, but my driver here was, when I looked at the agenda for the whole meeting, was it talked about the strategic plan, and it also talked about the budget. And I wanted to point, I was hoping that we would be addressing the whole group, but I wanted to point out that at the April 8th meeting, and you guys were there, so this is Coles to Newcastle, during the discussion about the improvements at the Hunter Park courts, it was decided not to go forward with any restriping in the Hunter Park courts. And there was a commitment made to look at additional courts in Ashland. And Director Lund said we should commit to adding 8 pickleball courts within the next 3 years. And Directors Gardner and Adams, we'd like to make a point to get more pickleball courts into the Park and Recreation Capital Improvement Plan. Agrees that more pickleball courts are needed and it's a priority of the commission. There was a motion passed directing staff to expeditiously look for property where pickleball courts could be placed and how to fund that in the future. The proposed 2027-28 and the following biennial has capital outlays of approximately $445,000 each of those 2-year periods. That is not enough money. So, and what we hear today in the meeting today, it's going to be looking for money. So I'd also point out during that April 8th meeting, Director Adams made the statement regarding Hunter Park. We promised that under a previous commission that Hunter Park would be for tennis. I've tried to find that reference, and what I did find was according to the Ashland Daily, at an APRC meeting on August 4th, 2021, it stated, in a motion to approve the dedication of Lithia Park courts to pickleball, Land included a moratorium on any proposed usage changes at Hunter Park tennis courts for a minimum of 2 years, acknowledging potential changes, concerns about future erosion to the tennis space, and until data is evaluated for recreational usage at both sites. So I'm suggesting to you that what was originally decided at that time was to look at it after 2 years. And that was not a permanent decision that was made by the commission at that time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is consent agenda. We have nothing on that, and we're moving on to business.
I think there's a TAC meeting to approve. Am I wrong?
It's,
That was just in the minutes that we approved.
those were the minutes from last time.
Actually, the agenda does have the Trails Advisory Committee meeting minutes.
Yeah. It's not listed on the consent agenda.
It is on mine, so I don't know what happened.
Thank you, Commissioner Lott.
Commissioner Bachman, I think that's the City Council Parks joint agenda.
Correct.
And then there's a separate agenda for Parks. There's not?
I just don't have it, but, so we are changing, well, the agendas that are posted online and the one we gave out to the public as they came in, is it on there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, then we're going to add it to my agenda, but I don't need to add it to anybody's agenda, so thank you very much, Commissioner Lott. And it's a consent agenda, so does anybody want to pull it and discuss it, or we'll just have a unanimous consent on the consent agenda? Okay, so.
What was the date on that?
TAC meeting date?
May 20th.
May 20th.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so hearing no objection, that those minutes are noted. We don't approve them, but we
Acknowledge.
we acknowledge them. Acknowledged. Thank you for that correction, everybody. Now to business, pickleball noise mitigation, which is an action item. And to get us started, just the order of operations here is we're going to hear a staff report. We will ask questions, and once we've clarified all what we've heard, then I will begin inviting up people for the public comments on this agenda item, and I have 11 folks, and we're going to give everybody 2 minutes on that, and I'll call you up in threes, and we have the same timing paradigm, except it's only 2 minutes total for each person. Okay, you're on.
All right. Well, thank you, commissioners. Again, Rachel Dials, Interim Parks Director. So just to recap, at the July 8th Parks Commission meeting, staff was directed to bring back information regarding pickleball, to talk about the seasonal hours, what the seasonal hours of the Japanese garden are, and to potentially align that with the open and close hours for pickleball courts. We also were asked to bring back examples of on-site signage to include information on with the AMC for amplified sound and playing after hours, so trespassing under the AMC 10.68.380. Information on quiet equipment and ways to proceed, and also the cost and scope of a pickleball noise study. Currently, the Japanese garden hours, which the Japanese garden is a locked facility, so it does lock at night, are adjusted 2 times per year. The spring and summer in daylight savings time, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., and then the fall and winter, which is out of daylight savings time, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. I think the point that I want to get across here is that having posted pickleball posted hours for the pickleball courts, regardless of what those hours are, they need to be set to be enforced. So you have to have a starting time and an ending time. You cannot have a dawn to dusk. That's too general. So if we want enforcement to happen related to people trespassing or people playing amplified music, things like that, if you want the police to enforce the AMC codes, you have to have set hours. So the example that I have here is the current Japanese garden hours, and to potentially align those with the Japanese garden hours.
And I just want to ask a clarifying question, and Commissioner Lant has one about this. The logic for having pickleball hours line up with Japanese garden hours is staff.
Well,
Because
when the commission had talked about, tossed around the idea of locking the courts, that was something, but at the last meeting when we talked about this, we had not, the commission was considering like aligning the hours with the Japanese garden, regardless of whether we lock the courts or not. And so I didn't know what those hours were, so I was asked to bring back those hours to the commission at that time.
okay, thank you for that. Commissioner Lant.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Maybe I just didn't hear right, but it sounded like you said that in order to enforce amplification, you'd have to have hours. And I don't understand why there's any relationship between amplification and hours.
Sorry, I misspoke on that. It should be for the actual pickleball for trespassing. The police department would have to have hours.
Thank you.
Enforced, yeah. So for
Weiner.
signage, yeah.
Commissioner Weiner.
Yeah, just thinking about if I recall the rationale for aligning the Japanese garden and the pickleball hours was because there has been some vandalism and some other issues that have occurred in the Japanese garden, and for APD to be able to have some reasonable eyes on it to align the two would allow some sort of reasonable alignment between if stuff was happening down there, noise and other things.
Thank you. Please
that was my understanding.
not do that. We have the rule, if you'd like something that comes up from the public, you go like this. There are no approved body language for disapproving of what we're saying or what anybody else is saying. And I ask for you to maintain that level of decorum, please. Okay.
Commissioner Weiner, I would.
We can't have a conversation if we have an outburst like that, so please don't do that.
Commissioner Weiner, I would add that we have had in the past vandalism issues at the Japanese Garden. You are correct. And now that we do lock the area, and we also have it alarmed, so we do have PD on the move on that right away when that does happen. So for signage, and so in order to enforce, amplified sound on site and playing outside of posted hours, staff is recommending posting signage to the effect of playing outside of posted hours, playing after dark, or trespassing is strictly prohibited. And then it talks about violators facing citations with the AMC referenced. And then specifically calling out the unnecessary noise ordinance, which is external speakers, boom boxes, and amplified audio are strictly prohibited under AMC 9.09.170. So for quiet pickleball equipment, if the commission wants to pursue quiet pickleball equipment, we would recommend encouraging the use of quiet pickleball equipment rather than instituting mandatory requirement. It's the enforcement of it would be impractical and unfeasible for staff and the police department to be able to enforce that. As far as pickleball sound analysis proposal, I did read a lot of the letters that came in from the public. And what I would say is, there was a couple of them that referenced the fact that there was already a noise study done. Well, it wasn't. It was basically staff standing in different areas around the park and on Granite Street and up on Glenview with a noise meter testing the sound to see, what the levels came in at. If we're really wanting to follow some best practices, staff would recommend working with a pickleball company that does a sound analysis. And they would give us specific recommendations for the pickleball courts in Lithia Park. And the fact that it's in a canyon, it's going to be really difficult. And so we as staff, I don't feel we don't have the expertise on staff to be able to do that. So the cost would be anywhere between $6,900 to $7,500. And I would recommend that we proceed with that sound analysis and any recommendations that might come back that maybe we can put as we move towards setting our process for capital improvement projects in the next CIP, looking at where that fits in and what the costs are of that. Doing any recommendations they might have for things like what they have at Rogax in Medford. So the vinyl paneling that they put at pickleball at the courts there, that really does help with the sound mitigation on site at those courts. So what additional questions do the commissioners have this evening? And there's a proposed action for tonight.
Thank you. I'm going to ask for comments from other commissioners, and I may have a few of my own if they don't hit them. That's more of clarifying questions, what we're looking for. Clarifying questions before we bring up folks to, we do it in this order, by the way, for those of you who are going to present, so that you know exactly what we were already considering before you speak. Then we, after we've clarified the questions, we hear from you, and then we'll consider a motion and get into deliberating the actual vote. So, questions or clarifying questions for our director? Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Chair. So, Director Dials, I have a couple questions. Number one, so all the things that are listed here are staff recommendations, right? Okay. So did we look at any other facilities when you're on your recommendation for the time change?
We don't have any other facilities that really have set hours. For instance, like the Hunter Park tennis courts, there are lights on those tennis courts. They're really old lights, but they do still work. And those lights, I believe, go off at 9 p.m. If you're looking at North Mountain Park and the ball fields, those lights go off around 9 or 9:30 p.m. So park hours parks are closed from midnight to 5 a.m.
Yeah, right.
So that's really the only, I can align it to indoor facilities, but I don't really think that, that's like apples to oranges, I think.
Right. So I guess did you look at any other cities or what other communities do?
So Medford's pickleball courts are 7 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Mhm.
But they also have lights too.
So one other question then, if I can. Doing the sound study, what do we get from that?
I'm going to invite my pickleball expert colleague, Lonnie Flora, up here to talk about that briefly.
Great.
Thanks, Lonnie.
Hello, Commissioners. And Lonnie Flora, Recreation Supervisor. So I've had a few conversations. The Pickleball Sound Mitigation Group, first off, would like to mention this is a group made up of pickleball players, officials, avid professional pickleballers who are very much advocates for the game and understand understand the issues surrounding sound mitigation in communities around the nation. They've done 200 pickleball court locations, 36 states, 4 Canadian provinces. So and I'm happy to email the entire proposal over so that you can look at it yourself. It would be a pickleball sound analysis and recommendations report for the Lithia Park courts. They will use topographical maps, elevation, put it in their models to determine where sound travels, what the impacts are in specific locations, so they can focus in on Japanese garden or the duck pond or addresses nearby. They can do an on-site consultation, which kind of creates that range of prices. So, having them travel here, stay here, be on site, look at how everything's laid out. There's also factors such as tree canopy cover, and really just looking at, thinking of the sound as line of sight. If you can see the pickleball happening, you're going to hear it as well. So the sound analysis, there would be also reports about, because they also do have labs that they're associated with that do quiet pickleball equipment work, studying all that. So they would provide a comprehensive recommendation of here's the best way to try and mitigate the sound, the type of product to use. Would quiet pickleball equipment actually make an impact? Knowing that enforcement is kind of, outside of our real capacity, they could still give us some guidance on the quiet pickleball equipment as well. So again, I'm happy to send the information over to the commission, and yeah.
Thanks, Lonnie.
The fact that this company exists, and it's a national thing, they consult nationally, it suggests that this is a problem in other communities, or a consideration. Problem's the wrong word. It's a consideration. Noise coming from this particular sport, and I don't know if there are other sports that have similar issues, has become, in some cases, I think there's been litigation. So we're not taking this lightly. I just want everybody to understand that. One of our jobs is to do risk mitigation for the city. We have our assistant city attorney here who's involved in that sort of thing. And so the reason we're belaboring this, if you think we're taking too much time on it, is it needs analysis. This is not just personal opinions about noise levels. So I just want to make that point. This is not, there's a reason these people are making a living consulting on pickleball noise. Okay.
I have one follow-up question on that.
Commissioner Gardner.
Is there multiple companies that do this, or is there just like a single source?
After consulting with a few of the companies that produce the mitigation panels, I was directed to this company as kind of the leader. I think it's hard to find a slew of, companies. I think there might be one other, but yeah, after discussing it, finding out the price tag.
So it'd be like a single source.
Yes.
I just want to make sure we get the best
Correct.
bang for our buck. I mean, it's a lot of, anyways, thank you.
Commissioner Long?
Thank you, Chair. Pardon my hearing, but I heard 7 a.m. to, I didn't hear what, at Medford hours.
7 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Thank you.
Okay, most of what I
Sorry,
had.
can I just?
Oh,
can I-
yep, go ahead.
And I don't know, when I say that, I don't know if they change hours in daylight savings and outside of daylight savings. I don't think they do, but they also have lights, so.
Commissioner Weiner?
Yeah, thanks. I did do some looking around to other cities as well, within the valley and outside of the valley. And the locations that have lighting do keep their pickleball courts open later. It's not Rogue X, it's the whatever they call it out in Medford now. Also did significant noise mitigation to not have an adverse impact during those late hours that they're in the neighborhoods. A lot of the other community parks will list things such as till sunset or till dusk, or and the intention there, I think, is to not have action in non-lighted facilities.
Okay, I think that's good. We'll hear from the public now, unless you have any closing remarks.
No, I'm going to
Okay.
go take my timekeeper spot over here.
Okay. All right, so 3 at a time, since that way they don't have to stand up too long. First presenter is John Frank, second is Jan Calvin, and the third is Margie McKenzie. Once again, please, for the record, state your name again, and if I mispronounced it, that'll fix that, and then let us know which city you live in.
My name is John Frank. I live in Ashland. I'm 80 years old and I play pickleball 3 or 4 times a week. I'm also the guy who blows off the pickleball courts about 90% of the time. I don't start before 7 o'clock with the battery-powered, not very loud leaf blower. And anyone who says that we're starting earlier than that is either hearing somebody with a different leaf blower or they have a very slow watch. I'm volunteering about 100 hours of my time a year to Parks and Recreation. You're welcome. I want to keep the starting hours at 7 o'clock because I don't want to play in the heat of the day. You've previously done a sound level study, and it showed pickleball noise was below the city ordinance threshold. Now you want to spend $6,000 for another study. Why? Is it because you think the Japanese gardens are a place for meditation? Then why are you scheduling concerts there? So please stop putting up roadblocks to my enjoying my sport and trying to remain healthy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, commissioners and staff, and my friends. My name is Jan Calvin. I live in Ashland, and I'm here to encourage more use of data. I was really pleased to hear Commissioner Bachmann say it's not just a bunch of people's opinions. You have a handout in front of you. I'm not going to belabor the first page, but simply to say that the top chart is from NOAA, and then it was regrafted so that every hour is documented down below. The bright yellow is what would be retained in hours if the proposal went through for cuts. The other orange is what is currently, as well as two little squares on the right side starting at 7 o'clock. It's really too dark to play in January and December. But in looking at your proposal, it cuts the first hour of play basically 10 hours or 10 months of the year. The proposal cuts the last hour of play 3 months of the year, February, May, and August, and the last 2 hours of play in June and July. You take into consideration the temperatures during the warmest parts of the year, morning and evening hours will impact the most number of players. Each hour of cut cuts the opportunity for 32 players to use these courts. This loss equates to 960 hours to up to nearly 3,000 hours of lost player time each month, for a total of more than 12,000 lost player hours over the course of the year. You can see the percentages by month of what the suggested cuts are, and my key around the idea of it can't be enforced without a set time. Sunset is at a set time. You pull out your phone, you know exactly when sunset is every day. Thank you for retaining the hours as best you can.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Margie McKenzie. I live in Ashland, Oregon. And I'm surprised at how adversarial this has all become, that we're getting police involved and that we're having all these. It's a sport, you know. Lithia Park is a public park, and I feel like everybody should be more kind of gracious and consideration about this instead of being adversarial. It doesn't seem to. I've lived here almost 50 years, and this just is not the tone of the community that I've experienced. One thing that I've noticed that a lot of a lot of the retired people and the people that are seniors play in the morning. But who plays in the afternoon? The families, the people coming off work, and all the students. So after 4 o'clock, that's when it starts, and it starts for all these people that are not able to play because they're working, they're students, they're doing other things, they're raising families. In terms of, like I said, I don't like the criminalization of it. I just really think that's offensive to talk about police and all this. I don't know. I don't see a lot of people here complaining about the noise. I mean, there are people here that are saying that we love this sport and that means a lot to us. But if there are people that are really complaining about them, I think they would be in the audience. And they're not. Nobody's representing that there's a problem here. And I don't think there are very many people that would agree that there is a problem if you look in Ashland as a whole. It's really just a few people who live nearby, and they can't let go of it. Basically, there's band concerts, there are people having weddings. I mean, it's a public park. And so I really think it should be inviting. We get so many visitors coming in from states and other countries, and we're very much ambassadors for Ashland. And I just hope that you can be more open-minded and be kinder about your approach with pickleball. Thank you.
Thank you. The next three are Rick Van, Michael Ordendorf, and Corey Frank.
Okay, 2 minutes, wow. I'm Rick Van, I'm an Ashland resident, and I'm also a member of the RDAC community, or with Lonnie and Rachel, and I thank them for all their efforts in bringing these things up. I wanted to say quickly, pickleball is not just a parks and recreation issue. It impacts our local visitor-based economy. I think it's important to keep that in mind as you make these decisions. I appreciate the chair's comment, too, that you are not taking this lightly. We take this very seriously because there are decisions ahead that will curtail the hours and further squeeze court capacity at Lithia. We're already maxed out, and despite our best attempts, that's where we're at. I was at the annual Ollie Open House today, and I was pleased to see Parks and Rec was represented there. That was very cool. Plus, I saw a lot of seniors that are part of the Ashland pickleball community. And I want to be kind when I say this, but it's no secret that this community of pickleball players has had very little advocacy within the Parks and Rec Commission. And I don't mean that as a critique, it's just the reality. We have not been successful in securing more courts, even getting one single court at Hunter Stripe, dual striped, as we talked about earlier, getting lights at the Lithia court. So we have been largely unsuccessful. But I would ask Parks and Rec to at least consider the visitors to our town that enjoy Lithia Park pickleball, the schools, kids that we coach, that go on to play with their families, and the benefit of this sport to all ages. So I'm saying that merely as a platform for your consideration when you're looking at squeezing down hours and limiting things. And yeah, I appreciate the signage and the efforts that Rachel and Lonnie have made to improve communication, and I think we can self-police. So in closing, I'd like to say that we're only looking for respect and some measure of support and empathy and advocacy. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, hello, I'm Michael Orndorff. I'm a resident of Ashland, and I've been in Ashland since the big hotel in town was called the Mark Anthony, and Lithia Park was a Forest Service campground. So this group that is trying to sell you expensive panels has recommended a sound analysis company that's going to tell you need to buy their panels. Lots of pickleball communities know that these groups are in cahoots. That's why they recommend a non-independent sound analysis to do it, is because it tells you have to buy all these panels. If you're going to do a sound analysis, you need to look at all of the noise that occurs in Lithia Park. That means being there when their band concert is playing, going to the children's playground, and listening to leaf blowers and cars go by. Because it has to be set at a specific decibel level, not, I don't like the sound of that ball bouncing on a paddle, even if it's only 12 decibels. Okay, it is essential to have information here because otherwise you're going to make the wrong decision. Pickleball is a huge part of this community. It keeps people healthy and happy. It's got families and seniors and everybody here. And it does feel adversarial, and we feel attacked because you can't get a Lithia picture on your thing. You can't even talk about where you're going to put other pickleball courts. That has never even come up. You just keep talking about shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And that hurts and makes us angry. I really appreciate you reconsidering what you're thinking of doing here because it's setting a dangerous precedent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Corey Frank. I live here in Ashland. I've addressed this group many times asking for pickleball courts, as you know, bringing data forth. And I want to go back in your memories to a long time ago when we talked about the PROS plan. You remember that? That was a little over a year ago. The Parks, Recreation, Open Spaces, Senior Service PROS plan. What do we pay for that? $50,000, $80,000? And one of the things that did come out of that process, however, was the former director brought forth draft information. One of the top needs this community asked for was pickleball courts. But that was just a draft plan. I can't get anybody to talk about it now because now we're on to another plan. The reality is, just as Mike said, we feel disrespected because we are disrespected. This is all about playing a game in a public park, and you're making it a criminal event. Come and round us up then.
Thank you. Next up, we have Dennis, and I'm going to have trouble with the last name, so Dennis, I'm going to say MP. Oh, good. Thank you. Esther. And Carl Gastonson. Go ahead.
All right, good evening. My name is Dennis Empey. I'm an Ashland resident, and I'm the secretary of the Ashland Pickleball Players Association and one of your constituents. I'm trying but failing to make sense of the proposed rules changes around the open hours for public pickleball courts at Lithia. The notion that the hours for Lithia court should be the same as those for the Japanese garden is totally arbitrary. It makes no sense at all. They're two totally separate and different public spaces used for entirely different purposes. I understand that you're perhaps trying to get it so that the police can make one sweep at the same time, but I'd like to think they're not just looking at it once. I mean, they got to be going through periodically throughout the night, because that'd be pretty easy for the vandals to figure out. Maintaining the current hours allows many of the community to play earlier in the summer months to avoid the heat in the mornings and afternoons. It also allows people to play after work, or before school as well. What is the purpose of changing the hours? Is it about noise? Because if it is, the municipal code allows for construction and landscaping to begin at 6 a.m. in the summer and 7 a.m. the rest of the year. Why is pickleball being singled out when we know that blowers and similar devices are louder than any pickleball game or gear? I urge you to reconsider the proposed change in hours and to start to support Ashland's pickleball community instead of vilifying us. We are not the enemy. Most of us are Ashland residents, and we are your constituents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Esther Brunn, and I'm just here to remind you that we submitted a sound survey from March 29th at 4:30 p.m. And it laid out the real snapshot that showed that cars, children, and picnic attendees account for most of the louder sounds in Lithia Park and are louder than the sounds of 6 courts in use at the pickleball courts, with approximately 24 people playing at that time. Pickleball is faint to moderate in the direct vicinity of the courts. The decibel level is often much higher in other parts of the park. Sounds coming from other sources, such as the creek, passing cars, and children are represented by the bigger circles on the map. I have multiple copies for anyone who's interested in seeing this, which has already been conducted. 7 locations out of the 26 have a detectable sound level from the pickleball. Of these 7, 4 are faint, hardly audible. 2 are moderate, lower than 60 decibels, which is less than the sound of a car passing by. And 1 is inaudible, less than 25 decibels. When measuring the sound coming from the pickleball courts, the maximum recorded was on Winburn Way in the direct vicinity. When the ball hit the paddle, the sound was approximately 52 decibels, which is less than the sound of a car passing by. So if anyone's interested in the information that's already been gathered at much lower cost than what is being projected here, I'm happy to further along those conversations and submit this data. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Carl Carstensen, longtime teacher and resident of Ashland and coach. A lot has been said, so I don't want to repeat it, but I have to ask, where's the problem? Are we talking about 1 or 2 people? We're standing up and being counted for. I have yet to see somebody stand up and say, this is the problem, where's the petition? Let's see, we have to identify if there is a problem before seeing if there's solutions to it. Are we creating something that doesn't need to be even examined? I don't know. Ask yourself that. I'll stop there.
Thank you. And 2 more, Stan Mavis and Lynn Costantino.
Hello, I'm Stan Mavis. Regarding the budget, maybe if we push the temperature on the air conditioner up a little bit, we could save a little bit more revenue. But I live here in Ashland, moved here a little bit over a year ago, and this is an inclusive, welcoming place. That's the city charter. If you look at the values for Ashland, it talks inclusive, have everybody come in. we discovered pickleball, never played before. And the pickleball community brought us in, made us all part of it. And so I'm trying to understand the anecdotal things that tie this to the Japanese gardens and all that type of stuff. It just doesn't make sense. Pickleball is the fastest global growing sport. It's totally documented, and it's the fastest growing sport in the U.S. And that Parks and Rec can take advantage of this. I would contend that the Lithia Park courts are a source of revenue. They're not just a place where people are making noise and should be penalized, but they can generate revenue, and that plus all these huge, happy, increased pickleball players can help on the revenue side, can help drive any votes that are trying to provide revenue and things like that. Personally, we decided to stay here. We're building a house close to the pickleball courts so we can walk there. And so that, we made that positive. We are going to be paying that $5 with our utility bill, but, all that and all the rest of the things that out-of-town players coming, all those type of things, Parks and Rec should be expanding and helping pickleball players instead of curtailing.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Len Costantino, or Cos. I've been here about 35 years. Pickleball is one of the greatest multi-generational sports I've ever experienced. I was Booster Club president for 5 years, and the whole purpose of Booster Club was to get every kid in Ashland involved in some sport. And pickleball's coming, and we are not prepared for the onslaught that's going to happen. And it's really sad. You have Hunter Park, where you're going to have the tennis team can play. So the pickleball kids theoretically should be able to play at Hunter Park. They're high school kids, but we're not giving any facilities for them. So I think it's a little short-sighted. Ashland's probably got one of the greatest places to play pickleball in the United States in Lithia Park. It should be promoted. It's not, but good God, if we ever did, we'd be overwhelmed. So that's not a good idea. The other thing we've done as a community, we've created a 501(c)(3). We're ready to raise money. We're ready to stop some of these, funding gaps, problems that you have, if you would allow us the opportunity to work together. But everybody said it, we feel so vilified. Like we're the bad guys. We are not. We're the ambassadors. Everybody said it. We're promoting this and promoting Ashland. And it's really sad. But anyway, those are those things. The only other thing about this study, I was a little confused. I can't believe we're going to have a sound study and they're not even going to come to town and do it. They're going to do it on some paper. What kind of nonsense is that? I mean, don't they have to walk the streets and hear all the other sounds? We play pickleball at 7:30. They got weed eaters, they got mowers, they got these little four-wheelers going up and down Winburn Way collecting trash. Come on, there's no sound problem.
Thank you. So we're going to now have our conversation, and Commissioner Lott would like to start it off.
Thank you, Chair. Actually, I have a question. I think it was spoke to earlier, but I just want to make sure I heard it right. Are there official hours at the pickleball courts currently?
Yes. But it's like 7 a.m. to dusk. Sunset. So it's not set. The end time is not set, and that is.
Thank you.
It changes daily as Earth revolves around the sun.
Yeah, that's correct.
And I was a science teacher. And the reason we were setting a specific time was a conversation with the police department about how to enforce any kind of time restrictions. Okay.
That's correct.
Commissioner Lott.
I can go along with the mitigation strategies as staff has presented them, except for the hours. I just don't think that we should be significantly, or we shouldn't be reducing the hours when there's already a lot of pressure on the courts, and to me, it doesn't make sense. So I could go along with the motion if it includes just keeping the hours as they are, changing the hours to, say, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. But I won't vote for a measure that limits the hours. I just don't think that's, we're trying to be promoting recreation, and that does not promote recreation.
Thank you. Mr. Weiner?
You know, I'm going to ask for a little latitude, Chair. A lot of comments were made, and I feel they deserve some comments.
No, I don't want to go to, no.
I think it's a mistake.
Well, it could be, but it's not our practice to do that, and I don't want to change it tonight on the fly.
All right. I will just make mention then that if you,
you can certainly speak to it generically.
With present, without the lighting there presently, much of the year, per the data presented here, that would be after dark, and I can tell you that people have played after. They've brought their own lights sometimes, and people have actually played after well after 9 p.m. So despite posted hours, have not complied.
Mr. Gardner, anything?
Thank you, Chair. You know, I do have the same concerns that Commissioner Lawn has. I was actually confused when we tried to tie the hours to the Japanese garden, because I don't see the logic there. I think we should keep the hours similar to what they are now, although I can see the benefit of putting a stop time, say 9 o'clock in the summer and some other time in the spring, because it is easier to enforce if we want to not have people playing after dark in the park. Now the park's open, you can walk through the park, you can do just about anything you want in the park till midnight. And but I think out of respect for the neighbors, just like you wouldn't run a blower or a chainsaw at 9 o'clock at night, that it would be reasonable to have an end time. But I would also add that I'm not in support of the noise mitigation study. I think we've looked at different, I mean, staff did a basic check. I guess, I don't know if the study that the one woman referred to was provided by the Pickleball group or what, but, there's some studies out there that, show that the noise level is below the standard that the city would find unacceptable. So I just don't, I would prefer not to spend, $6,000 or $7,000 on a noise study. So if we don't change the hours or discuss the noise analysis more, I would be a no vote on this.
Go ahead, Commissioner Weiner.
Just for clarification, Director Dials, the noise study is not to demonstrate decibels or to say it's noisy here, it isn't noisy there. The noise study is to say, what are the opportunities we have to make this facility less intrusive to other park users and the residents? It seems astounding to me that we wouldn't pursue opportunities to make a facility more enjoyable for all of the community. We say we're part of a community, and yet we don't want to figure out how but I would like some clarification. That is,
So
if I understand correctly, that is the intent.
You are
of it.
correct. The company would give us recommendations on what types of noise mitigation strategies would work within those courts. And I just want to clarify, the company would come on site. I mean, it's an extra charge, but they would come on site and spend some time on site. So, and it's not just from one sound mitigation. I want to clarify, it's not just from one company. This is a special noise mitigation company. It's not from one vinyl,
Not a manufacturer.
that wants us to use their equipment.
Okay, so what I'm hearing, and then I'll come back, is we have several items in here that we're going to have to be dealt with separately. So I don't see a way to bundle them all together this evening. We're missing a commissioner. This is the only meeting he has missed in almost 4 years. That doesn't stop us from voting, but it is a factor in my mind about whether we should divide this up into 1 or 2 or 3 parts, table it, restructure it, and bring it back without a lot of extra work from staff. I'm very sensitive to our staff's workload. I'm not talking about doing more research. I'm just talking about giving us time to reorganize the way we want to approach the plethora of items. And I am sensitive to what we heard tonight regarding having a welcoming attitude to pickleball, which I do. And we do want to expand the sport. I do personally want to expand the sport in the city. It's nice to hear that there's a 501c3 happening, because we have one already chaired by our vice chair here, the Parks Foundation, which does a great job of raising money and helping fund our projects. So that's a wonderful partnership taking shape. So I guess I can hear some more ideas from everybody about how to proceed, make any progress we can, including a possible vote tonight on one of these items, or table it and bring it back. And when I say bring it back, it'd be next month, and we would have specific, maybe 3 different motions for 3 different proposals of the pieces of your proposal tonight, your recommendation. Commissioner Lott.
I just want a clarification. The cost that was estimated for the sound company, did that include an on-site visit, or is that extra?
I believe I put, sorry, I don't have
There's a
my,
range.
it was a range, so the top of the range would include the site visit.
Thank you.
Top of the range was 7,500, bottom was 6,900. Commissioner Gardner.
Thank you, Chair. I don't see a problem with us breaking this down and taking separate votes on different parts of this proposal. Once again, you don't want to kill one thing because something else is tied to it. So I would propose that I would suggest a motion that dealt with the hours of operation, and one that dealt with the sound analysis is the two items I see here, unless, I don't know what the third would be.
The third one was quieter equipment, but it was just basically an invitation to use quieter equipment until.
What was it?
Amplification?
The other one would be sound amplification, which is kind of almost independent of the playing of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And we do have to address that one. So,
Well, if I can clarify then, it would be adjusting the hours on the proposed signage,
Mhm.
and then dealing with the sound analysis separately.
Right, but I think I have three. I'm counting three actual action items.
Yeah.
And Commissioner Long, now,
It doesn't really address the police chief's concerns, but I'm not sure.
Well, regular hours would.
I'm sorry, that's my preference.
I wanted to.
It doesn't address, if we stay with our current system, 7 a.m. to sunset, it doesn't address the police chief's concern. But I'm not sure how important that is. Now, the problem with 9 o'clock, 7 to 9, we don't have lights. And I think there's some, just from a ecological standpoint, winter being quieter, I think there's some reason to leave it that way. So there is a problem. Perhaps if you have a 9 o'clock, you're going to have people bringing their own lights, and that may be not a good idea, I'm not sure. But I guess what I'm getting at is I'm almost like to see staff come back with something, either something different than our current, or something similar to that makes more sense to them. But I don't want to see our hours reduced from what they are currently in any significant way.
I'm not comfortable moving forward even with some of these pieces at this point. Tonight, but I'll entertain a motion if you want to break it down into independent individual items. We can certainly try to make some progress. Commissioner Gardner. Oh, I'm sorry, Lon.
Thanks, Chair. I move that we maintain our current hours at the pickleball courts from 7 a.m. to sunset.
I'll second that.
Would you like to speak to your motion?
No, I've spoken enough.
Spoken enough.
Well, I seconded for discussion because I'm not sure that I see some value in setting an end time simply because of it just seems like it would work easier to enforce if we needed to. And I don't think enforcement is necessarily the goal here. It's just to set some guidelines so that people are clear when playtime is available on the courts. I think the other parts that are currently listed in this proposed signage, the amplified sound, the making it clear, no dogs, no smoking, no glass, I think those things are important to be up there. So, I'm not sure if I wanted to read 7 a.m. to sunset, but I guess it could. But I think the other items in the proposed signage are necessary and should be up there now as soon as possible.
And that's something we can take action on tonight on the signage, which contains the hours, but also the amplification. So that does combine those two concerns into one motion.
Well, we have a motion that does not include those, so.
That's just a suggested motion. So anybody can make a motion that.
We have a motion on the table, so.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Make an amendment.
I've lost track of that, yes.
So I would amend the current motion to include. Sorry. I would amend the current motion to include the other information on the signage that's provided for us in the staff report.
Okay, so rather than have a separate amendment, do you want to restate your motion?
I don't think it's necessary.
Well, wait, no, okay.
Commissioner Gardner would do that.
All right, we will do this, Roberts. So, okay.
So I made an amendment to see if anybody wants
You want
to
a second amendment?
You need to read out your amendment, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah. The motion is to amend, so what's the amendment?
That's what I just said.
Say it
The
again.
amendment,
Say it again.
okay? My amendment to the current motion is to incorporate the signage as presented in the staff report. With the only, you've already stated the hours, so I just want to make sure the rest of the information is in there.
Got it. Second, I'll second that one. Any comment on that?
No.
Just further discussion? Roll call vote, please. Now, we're voting on the amendment, and then we'll come back to the root motion. So this is on Commissioner Gardner's amendment. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Weiner?
Yes.
Commissioner Bachmann?
Yes.
Commissioner Gardner?
Yes.
Commissioner Lant?
Yes.
So the amendment passes.
Thank you. So now we're back to the amended root motion, which is to, I just want you to repeat it because for clarity, it's a late night here and we have been through several meetings.
Well, the original motion was to maintain the hours from 7 a.m. until sunset, plus the amendment that we
Okay,
just voted on.
and the amendment which we just passed. Okay, so any more discussion on that? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Weiner?
Yes.
Commissioner Bachmann?
Yes.
Commissioner Gardner?
Yes.
Commissioner Lant?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Okay, so we've cleared the floor. And we could still address, I'm just trying to think through this.
I'd like to make a motion.
Commissioner Weiner.
I'd like to move to have staff proceed with contracting with the organization to evaluate pickleball noise mitigation opportunities within Lithia Park.
Is there a second? Well, I'll second that one and we'll have a little conversation. Would you like to speak to your motion?
I think that it's important to, first of all, I'd just like to say, let me thank all of those who've submitted their thoughts and come tonight to comment on this particular issue. I appreciate those who are willing to engage in respectful public discourse. I also want to give thanks and acknowledgement to staff who honestly have done a great deal of work on this focusing time, challenging, controversial issue. They've collaborated with APD, with the commission, with Pickleball Club, and non-pickleball related citizens. I know many would like to sort of couch this whole thing as that it's my singular mission. To that I say, nope, totally wrong. I am focused on all the issues that affect the 21,000 some odd citizens of Ashland, not just the several hundred pickleball players. I will say, however, that I am interested in protecting the solitude and historic peaceful nature of Lithia Park, and this is an issue of great concern to me as it is to many hundreds of people that have written in regards to a different topic currently being considered by this commission. Many, many of them, hundreds, have commented on the solitude that they cherish in Lithia Park and wish would be returned. And can we please be honest about the fact that pickleball noise is not the same as children playing, a music performance, or frankly any other sound from normal park use? That's absurd. The problem with noise from pickleball is the percussive, repetitive, high-impact sounds over an extended period of time. It's different, and you know it. This particular study would give us the opportunity to evaluate what possible solutions there might be to allow the supposed welcoming community to remain in the park, reducing the adverse impact on other park users in the neighborhood. And to not be willing to do that is astounding to me. It's astounding. So I hope that this commission will move forward with seeking solutions rather than just refusing to really acknowledge the challenge that has been faced in countless communities across this country.
Thank you. And for my second, I would like to have the study. The prior sort of an ad hoc look at the noise was done by staff, as Interim Director Dials noted, and it is not comprehensive or scientific in any way. And so if we're going to again take seriously both sides of this discussion, we need to quantify the actual what's going on with the sound. So I would have trouble taking any strong action either way until we do that. So I support the study. Anybody else want to speak to it? Commissioner Gardner? No? Commissioner Lunt? No. Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Lunt?
Yes.
Commissioner Weiner?
Yes.
Commissioner Bachmann?
Yes.
Commissioner Gardner?
No.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And I think that wraps that item up.
Can I ask one question?
Commissioner Gardner?
What I failed to, their staff had put in a recommendation for use of quiet equipment. It wasn't necessary, but it was recommended. I think that probably fell out because it's not listed on the signage and it's not included in this sound analysis. So I don't know if we need to address that too, or
Well, I think
if
we should
can
for
just-
completeness, and I'll just say that that I think the future could develop where that would become could become some sort of a mandatory item in a future commission, and so I think thinking about it is a good idea, and so I would support having a motion so that we can be on record for whether or not we would encourage our pickleball community to consider quiet equipment. And I'll make that motion. That the motion is the commission encourages the use of what I'll call quiet pickleball equipment as a possible way of lowering conflict in the community. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And I just explained why I made the motion. Would you like to talk to it?
Sure. While I think that the language to recommend to a pickleball community who's already said we won't use it is sort of somewhat silly, but I think that quite frankly, I've heard from a number of pickleball players, actually some avid ones, who actually prefer that equipment and actually would prefer the quieting sound of it as well. I think it makes a more enjoyable play experience. And so my hope is that the community will help encourage its other community members to try the equipment over time, and they may find that they enjoy it.
Anybody else? We're going to hear from, first we're going to hear from our legal expert here.
Well, I just want to clarify that this is then to just have another point on the pickleball court signage.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
just so
and
everyone's on the
it
same
would be
page.
noted on the signage that we encourage people to use lower noise equipment. Commissioner Lunt.
I think there's a few reasons to use lower noise pickleball equipment, but I think the way that should come about is, number one, just community pressure, if there really is any, and two, just the pickleball players themselves. But I'm not sure it's very meaningful just to say we encourage this. It isn't really, there's no force to it. It doesn't really, and so I'm going to vote against that. I just don't see the point.
Commissioner Gardner, anything? Commissioner Weiner?
I mean, I don't entirely disagree. However, one of the things that I find interesting is some players I talk to don't even know that equipment exists. They say, "Oh, I didn't." USA Pickleball endorses it, and some players don't even know it exists and might be willing and open to try it. In fact, some communities, the pickleball club and/or the recreation department provide balls and/or paddles for folks who don't have equipment to use, and in that case, they provide the quieter equipment so that it can be experimented with prior to purchase and made available for those. And so, paired with that sort of an initiative, it might actually make a difference.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Lant?
No.
Commissioner Weiner?
Yes.
Commissioner Bachmann?
Yes.
Commissioner Gardner?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And our final business item tonight is Mace Property Riverwalk Trail Improvement and Connection to Bear Creek Greenway. It's information only, and this is Commissioner Gardner's item because he serves on the Bear Creek Greenway Foundation.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be brief tonight. This is to try to get this idea kind of on the radar of the Park Commission. As most of us know, the Bear Creek Greenway runs from Central Point to Ashland, and we've tried for years to extend the trail through Ashland, to and through Ashland, and we've kind of run into some roadblocks along the way. And at the last Greenway meeting, it was brought up that maybe we should look at some temporary connection between where the trail terminates now, which is actually, you can get all the way to West Nevada Street by Ashland Creek. But then that's where the trail terminates. And then the idea of using the public roadway of West Nevada and Oak Street to get to the current trail that crosses the Mace property, and you can follow it here. I think probably most of us have maybe walked that trail. The idea is just to get it on our radar. I mean, it's a dirt hiking trail now. The Greenway is a 10-foot wide asphalt or concrete roadway. So it's, if in the future we ever determine to develop something like that, this might be the route that could get from where the trail currently terminates to North Mountain Park.
So just a clarifying question right off the bat here. Would you come up Hellman then and then go through the Mace property and down into?
No, you come up, you go East Nevada to Oak Street. Oak Street is a Sharrow road, so assuming people are on bicycles, you come up Oak Street and then you turn on Sleepy Hollow there, and that's where the trail actually starts.
Got it.
Right.
Okay, and then you could, once you're on North Mountain, you can pretty much.
Well, then North Mountain, there's a section of trail around North Mountain. It's just easy. It gets you a little farther and maybe closer to getting to the central bike path.
It's not that far to the central bike path.
Right.
I mean, you could just walk along the road. Okay, so pretty much end up at the terminus now, which is past Ashland Street and over by Martin Shopping Cart. Okay, Commissioner Long.
Is Commissioner Gardner done with his presentation?
Yeah, I am.
Thank you, Chair. I think that this has already been talked about at the commission level of doing this as a temporary greenway. What hasn't been talked about, and I don't think it's been talked about that much at the greenway level either, is instead of the current plan, which is to cross at Nevada Street, cross Bear Creek, and then there'd be a requirement to cross Bear Creek again because the current North Mountain Bridge is not wide enough to accommodate. So in order to get to North Mountain Park, you'd have to cross again. So 2 bridge crossings, we already have an idea that each one's a multi-million-dollar crossing, really expensive. But there's another option, and that is from Nevada Street by the substation on the Oak Street side.
But down East Nevada Street there.
Down East Nevada to Bear Creek.
So continue straight to the creek.
You're going the wrong way.
Right there.
There.
Right there.
And from there, go upstream on the Oak Street side. You're going downstream, upstream.
Yeah.
But on the other side of the creek.
There's no trail there now, it's private
Yeah.
property.
But there's room, there's no development near the creek. There's lots of room there. And there's about 5 properties that would have easements or property purchases would have to occur. But the cost of easements or buying the property is likely to be much less than the cost of building a bridge. And probably you'd have less maintenance because you don't have the bridge maintenance, you just have a trail maintenance. So I think this should be seriously considered. I think actually, I may be wrong, but I think we may have put this on our open space plan. But if it's not on the open space plan, it ought to be added.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions of the Vice Chair?
Well, I would just, thank you, Chair. I would just say that if the commission, supports, somehow incorporating this property into the future Greenway plan, that would be a great discussion for the Greenway Foundation itself to have as far as where they might want to put the money that it would cost to do something like this. Like actively seek out property owners, talk about numbers as far as easements and that kind of thing.
Okay, and so that
I'm sorry.
potentially the acquisition of the easements would be coming from their budget or our budget or both, or?
The Greenway is pretty much expanded in a cooperative way with the communities that it's built through, but really it's Jackson County Foundation is the fundraising end, and, we would look at monies available. When we were looking at putting a bridge across Bear Creek at the Kestrel Park, the Park Commission or Park staff was fully invested in that. We put in for a state grant, and actually the Park Commission put up money as well as the foundation to do the preliminary engineering and those kind of things. So, it's always been a collaborative effort.
So are you meeting the purpose of your presentation? Do you
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Long.
I just want to make clear that I support the temporary greenway concept of using the Mace property in Riverwalk via Nevada, Oak, and Sleepy Hollow.
As do I, and so it's a matter of if we need to do anything more formal than that, bringing it back and we'll tackle it.
I just want to make, excuse me, I just wanted to make sure that it was on staff's radar and the commission. It's futuristic thinking, but that's how connections are made.
That's right. That's how things happen. Okay.
And if I can just say really quickly that if just if you would like me to attend those Bear Creek
Yeah.
Greenway Foundation, I already attend the Jackson County Greenway meetings, but if you want me to attend the Bear Creek Greenway Foundation
Yeah.
meetings, I'm happy to do that.
You know, we have one coming up
To
at the
make
end
sure
of
we
this
get the
month.
connection, so.
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
get with you.
Great. That brings us to the interim director's report.
All right, I will make it quick. I know that we're tired. So for any pickleball people who are still in the room, I'm just going to mention, I did not put this on my report, but I think it's important to mention that, I did want to say this earlier, but staff is moving forward with looking at areas for pickleball courts. And as we move forward into the next biennium budget, we will also be looking at adding pickleball courts to the CIP. So I think we haven't lost sight. We're looking, we just haven't given an update to the commission. So we have talked to SOU. At some point, we will probably talk to the school district, but that's kind of where we're at right now with that. We don't have a lot of current properties that are available for pickleball courts. So I just wanted to mention that.
Great.
Ice rink, good news, the cabling and the inspection is done and complete. Next up, we have to finish out the things to get done to make it a permanent structure, which means we have to fix the stairs on the back end and we have to put some kind of ADA ramp in. I don't know all the details. We're working on that right now. There's a construction company that has been hired. We went out to bid with the help of Public Works, and this all should be complete by the end of September, so we are close. East Main Park, street paving, I believe, is happening tomorrow. Irrigation work in the planter strips is to be completed soon, and then we will start working on park improvements. So it sounds like the street improvements are way ahead of schedule, which means the park will probably start sooner than November. The driving range, bids closed today. We got, I think, 6 or 7 bids in, and so more information coming soon on that. They're checking to make sure, but really, really exciting news on that. Tennis court rehabilitation work started last week on August 3rd. If you've been by Hunter Court, you can see that this picture down below here, all of the courts are completely torn up now, so it's exciting.
I know you've mentioned it before, but what's the total project time anticipated for the court rehabilitation?
Yeah, so we said the courts would be back open by mid-October. And that is, that's allowing for extra, that we're being a little conservative on that estimate. So hopefully they'll be done sooner, but they're moving pretty quickly. Concerts in Lithia, we have one more this month, sponsored by Epic Ashland, $8 Mountain and Diggin' Dirt. The city band concerts, there's 2 more, one this week on Thursday, one next Thursday. Everything starts at 6 p.m. Community Center is now online and available for rental. We have received 5 or 6 confirmed bookings, and of those 5 or 6 confirmed, there's some of them that are repeating through the end of the year. So like we have 2 or 3 different dance groups that have confirmed use of the building, and so that's exciting. Daniel Meyer Pool, just a reminder, Daniel Meyer Pool is open through September 6th. We will kind of start consolidating the schedule with the available staffing, but we are planning on being open through September 6th. And just a reminder, the commission is talking about Daniel Meyer Pool in September at their study session. We're going to be talking about ways to maintain what we have and what we need to do in order to maintain Daniel Meyer Pool in its existing form. And then fall registration is open for all of our fall programs now. And upcoming meetings, Parks Commission study session on September 2nd, 6 p.m. here. Regular meeting September 9th, 6 p.m. And then we have a Trails Advisory Committee meeting coming up on September 16th at 4 p.m. at the Grove.
Thank you, Chair. Are you done? I'm sorry.
I am done in case, unless there's questions.
Jumped
Sorry.
in too fast.
I was like trying to go.
So I just wanted, I know I've talked to you about the pickleball court repairs. And do you have any kind of an update on what we might be looking at there?
So yeah, so we got an estimate from the company that's here to do the tennis courts at Hunter. And so to do the full resurfacing at the pickleball courts would be about $50,000. We currently have $30,000 in the Parks Foundation set aside for pickleball. The bottom courts are, you know, I was out there today looking at it. The bottom courts definitely need, sorry, when I say the bottom courts, I mean the ones closest to the creek.
Yeah.
Definitely need to get done. The upper courts are cracked, but they're not on the actual surface. I would say if we're gonna do it, we should just do it all at once. That way everything's on the same schedule. But it's cheaper for us to do it now while the company's here as opposed to bringing the company back later as the courts get worse. So, you know, as staff, we were gonna just go ahead and move forward with that unless there's concern.
Oh, you were going to move forward with it?
We're hoping to move forward,
Yeah,
yeah.
that-
Is, just one follow-up question
Yeah,
real
go
quick. So is there any idea how long the courts would be out of service?
I asked that question and they're saying about a week.
About a week? Okay. Thank
But
you.
it's best case scenario to get it done now in the
Yeah.
fall while they're here.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a operating decision, whatever you think. Commissioner Weiner?
Can we make that any longer? No, I'm just kidding. I guess, I mean, I feel like those courts were just resurfaced.
I don't know what year they were resurfaced. The problem is unless you're gonna go in and do what we're doing at Hunter Park, which is basically digging everything out, the courts are gonna crack again. And so if we spend this money, we're probably gonna have to do it again in 6 or 7 years. I think they were done when Director Black was still here, so I think around like maybe 2018, 2019.
Well, I'll just say, I know they were converted in 2020, so.
Yeah.
That would have been.
Yeah, so it's 6 years. And then the big crack gets filled so that court is,
The whole thing would be resurfaced,
Right.
yes.
okay. I think that's sufficient on meetings. Anybody else have anything else they want to discuss this evening? No, in that case, we have arrived at the end of our agenda and this meeting is adjourned.
Can we create